Love Thy Nerd, if you didn't know, exists to be the love of Jesus to nerds and nerd culture. A huge swath of nerd culture. Something like at least half of Americans, somewhere in there, about play video games. Joshua Collar, one of our editors at Love Thy Nerd, is kind of leading this project for us. So I'm going to hand the reins over to Josh. He's going to be our MC. He's going to be the referee in this Jesus Goatees cage match.
Yes.
And we'll go from there.
Wow.
Yes, thank you, Drew. Cool. So, what I'm looking forward to today is making sure that we are faithfully representing Jesus and somehow mixing that with pitting each other at each other's throats. Not, of course, very, very literally, but as much as, we get passionate about these games, kind of going for it. Sweet. So we have a list of, sometimes we've gone a little bit over the top with the lists, but this time we've managed to shrink down a list of the 28 best games that represent values, goodness, integrity, life, things that we think that Jesus is really about.
Mercy.
Justice, mercy, with
anybody else want to throw something in there?
Probably love. Probably.
Yeah, probably love. Love might be a good option in there. I don't know.
All the spiritual armors.
Spiritual armors, all the spiritual. Yes, sweet. So before we get completely to the games that we have on the list, there's a lot that's worth talking about. I want to introduce everyone else who's on the show. So first up, we have Jonathan. Jonathan Reedy. So tell us a little bit about yourself. What is your favorite game that you've played this year that is, that's probably going to spoil things, but what was not on this list that you really, really love this year? That's probably putting you on the spot.
That's not on this list?
Yeah. I really put you on the spot there. I apologize.
Yeah.
What
well, I mean, I could kind of speak towards the future.
Oh, that's fine. Let's go ahead. Just go for it.
That's Smash Brothers Ultimate.
Oh,
will probably be up there.
Ready for Friday.
Yeah.
Absolutely. So. Awesome. Sweet. Well, Jonathan, thank you for joining our group tonight. Crew. I'm making up words. Crew tonight. And, we'll be hearing a lot from you in the podcast. Next, we have Madeline. Madeline Turnipseed. So, Madeline, what is your favorite game that is not on this list?
So this year I finally played the Stanley Parable and laughed my head off the whole way through. It was amazing.
Cool. So we'll be hearing a lot more from Madeline, and then we also have Joey Thurman. Joey, introduce.
Hello.
Yeah. Hello. And so, what is your favorite game that's not on this list?
Joey is also, by the way, our newest editor. We brought Joey onto the editorial team.
Yes, fresh blood.
Welcome.
Yeah. So, Joey, what is your favorite game that you have played that's not on this list?
Ooh. Well, I would say that one that came out this year that we are not putting on the list because it's a remaster is Spyro Reignited. Because I think it's such a wonderful remake of the 3 original games that came out. And I think it really brings out the creativity and imagination of the original games, like even more so than like back in the day.
Yeah, absolutely.
So,
I got it from my son, who's only like almost 3, so I'm excited to have something that's almost age appropriate.
Yeah, right. It's just so innocent and charming, and it's kind of hard to find games like that these days.
Absolutely. So, and that's actually, now, you chose a game that has been disqualified, but is technically on our list. So I should note that of the games that are Game of the Year qualifiers, now the Game of the Year is kind of a tradition among all game news sites. But one of the things that that's kind of the law of them all is that it has to be a game that's actually came out this year, which unfortunately disqualifies expansions and it disqualifies remastered. And we'll get to the other ones that are on there now, or a little bit later. First, we have our last and most important special guest, for no other reason than I'm singling her out. Steph. Hi.
Hey, I'm Steph. Stephanie Skiles. And, a game that's not on the list, probably, Shadow the Tomb Raider. The third in the Tomb Raider reboot series. It was just a really, as a lifelong fan, as most people know in this group, it was a good send up to the series, both the reboots and the older series that I grew up playing pretty much a million times every summer.
Yeah.
Wrote an article about.
Yeah, I did. Yeah, and
you can read about it at lovethynerd.com.
Absolutely. Yeah, so it was just a great game. Very well done. Very good send off. So yeah.
That's good to hear.
Awesome. Thanks so much, Steph. And of course, we'll be hearing a lot from all of our guests throughout the podcast. Now, the one thing before we get to all of
Can I say something? Am I here?
Go ahead. Yeah. What's that?
I didn't get to give a game.
I don't care.
Oh.
I didn't give a game either.
Y'all are in charge. Your voice
we have to be. We have to hold ourselves to a higher standard, Drew. We're the.
Okay.
No. Drew, go ahead. I'll give mine. You go ahead.
We were talking about it in our chat earlier that none of our listeners are privy to, but I really liked Minute. I know other people here did not.
No, actually, I put that on here because you were whining about it in our conversation.
Then we shouldn't talk about it now. Then.
Yeah. You have to pick
one
a
other
different
thing,
one.
though.
You got another one?
Okay. No, I just want to say a thing.
Oh, okay. Go ahead.
Games. Well, sort of. Just that Madeline, Steph, Joey, and you site, and I really appreciate the work that you do for Love Thy Nerd.
Thank you.
Jonathan,
now I'm going to get back to interrupting you and disrespecting you. Is that okay?
Thank you.
And no, I just feel like Jonathan should feel really special because you should feel really special, Jonathan, because you're the only one on here who's not an editor. So it probably means that eventually you will be.
Probably.
Ooh, Jonathan, right?
Pressure.
Taking that extra step.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Here, Jonathan. I didn't mean to single you out.
No,
it's fine.
No, so the one thing that I want to encourage all of you guys to do in our podcast today is to really talk over one another, interrupt, and it makes for good radio. It also is. This is the one podcast where we are. The Bible was written or compiled rather as a bunch of people kvetching about whether or not this should be allowed or that shouldn't be allowed. So I feel like kvetching is part of like this disagreement is kind of a holy process in some ways, probably not always. So I want to give you all the opportunity to interrupt a lot. Now, as we get to our list, what I want to do as a framework, now this conversation I believe could end up taking about 2 hours. So we'll probably take a break in the middle. But the way that I'm breaking things up is to really just kind of segment out the best on our list and the ones that we think that should be lifted up higher that didn't quite make it to the 3 votes or more. Now I'm gonna ask one of you guys to read out our full list in its current standings. Now, these are just rating standings. These are personal votes. These are recommendations. These aren't necessarily what the list is ultimately going to be, but it'll put a good sense on what things are going to be. And then everything that got two votes or less are essentially off the list. They're not going to be in the list unless someone makes a great case for them. And that's what pretty much most of the first leg of our conversation is going to be, is someone saying, no, I really think this should be on our list. Now, before we get to that, Steph, do you have the list in front of you?
I do, yes.
Would you mind reading everything off and its number?
Sure,
and its current
absolutely.
Standings. Sweet, thanks.
Absolutely. Number 1, we have Celeste. Number 2, we have God of War. Number 3, we have Wonder Song. 4, Red Dead Redemption 2. 5, Spider-Man. Number 6.
I'm going to interrupt you real there just to say that those are all 4 votes or higher. Those are all the votes that, like, the games that a large percentage of our writer crew was like, these are the games that have something about the life and values of Jesus that are really, really, really worth talking about. And now these are the 3 and under. Go for it.
Yes, correct. Well, Spider-Man's still 4. At 3 and under, starting at 3 stars, we have number 6, Where the Water Tastes Like Wine. 3 stars at number 7, Speed Dating for Ghosts. 3 stars at number 8, Return of the Obra Dinn. 3 stars at number 9, we have Donut County. Did you want me to read the 2 stars as well?
No. Yeah, that's actually a good interruption point, because now these are the ones that we're going to those are the ones that were like the really, really likely. They might get edged out if we like move something up above these. But those are the ones that we got enough ratings that we're pretty sure that they're at least a placement of the top 10 is what we're going to be fighting about. And that's what this podcast is really about, is us determining the top 10 games that Jesus loved the most this year. But yeah, cool. So these are all 2 and under. Go for it, Steph.
Yes. At 2 stars at number 10, Wow. Okay, so my
child Lebensborn.
There we go. Perfect.
Lebensborn, I think is
horrible
either way.
pronouncing.
Yeah. It's German. Yeah.
Number 11 at 2 stars, Ni no Kuni 2. Number 12 with 2 stars, Iconoclast. Number 13 with 2 stars, we have Life is Strange Before the Storm. Number 14 with 2 stars, we have The Awesome Adventures of Captain Spirit. Number 15 with 2 stars, we have Fallout 76. Number 16 with 2 stars, we have Octopath Traveler. Number 17 with 2 stars, we have Subnautica. Do you want the 1 star?
And so those are all the ones that were.
Yes.
They're still pretty high on our list.
Yes.
But now once we get down to 1 star, that doesn't mean that none of us think that it should really, really be on our list. That just means that only one of us voted for it.
Yes.
And so one of the hard things about determining what goes on our list is that we don't know what we haven't played. So one thing I wanted to ask. So all of you guys have played at least 99% of the games on this list, right?
I would go 75. Maybe
70.
Nice. Jonathan, how about you? What percentage of games on here would you say that you've played?
I think I have a solid probably 75 or
wow. Yeah.
76. What?
Okay. Nice. How about you, Drew? I'm putting everyone on the spot. About how many of these do you feel like you played? Like, just curious, out of the 28 that we have on this list.
I just want, for the record, I helped start a nonprofit this year. So that's my excuse.
It's kind of inhuman to expect that anybody has played more than 5 of these. So the fact that you guys are all like aiming, like I set the bar way too high. I play way too many games. I think that's pretty obvious.
A third of these.
That's okay.
Yeah.
That's okay.
Yeah, I played
that's
32%.
Yeah, that sounds about right. For like what's reasonable for someone who does this for a living. Most people haven't played, and that's the weird thing about GOTY list. Nobody has really played everything, and determining what goes where is insane. Anyway, sorry, I cut you off, Steph. And I didn't ask Joey and person I didn't ask about how many of these have you played, Joey?
I've played, if you count the remasters, 6.
6. Okay. No problem. Cool. Well, it's good to have it's good to have impartial votes and people who haven't played things to say, I don't know if I'm convinced by your argument or not. So it's really good to go that way. Awesome. Sweet. So Steph, what are the 1-star games that we have on here? You can just go, these are the 18 and under. You don't need to,
Yep. That's fine. Yeah. All the followings are only 1 star. A Way Out, Detroit Become Human. Oh, Pangolin Puzzle? Pangolin?
Yeah.
Pangolin.
Tiny Bubbles, The Station, Smoke and Sacrifice, Forza Horizon 4, Dead Cells, Super Mario Party, Minute, and Assassin's Creed Odyssey.
Excellent. Sweet. Yeah, so that's our full list. Those are all the things that we have as our main list. And then we have a couple things that I want to make sure that we give shout outs to those who voted for. We've got 2 stars for a couple of games that are on our expansions. You want to read that list?
Yeah,
Steph?
We have 2 stars under expansions and remasters for World of Warcraft Battle of Azeroth and for Splatoon 2 Octo expansion. And then we have 1 star for 2 expansions and remasters, which are Shadow of the Colossus and Spyro Reignited Trilogy. Yeah. Or Spyro, however you pronounce that.
I've never heard Spyro before, but I think that's probably more accurate to the Greek.
Spyro Agnew Reignited.
Spyro.
Spyro.
Awesome. Sweet. Well, guys, this is what our conversation is going to be for the next as much as we get it sorted out. So what I want you to do is, for all of you guys who have this on your device of choice, the 10 to 28 positions are what we're really going to kvetch about a little bit. And so what I want to do is I'm going to single each one of you guys out, and you're just going to get a little virtual token. I'm going to hand it to you in cyberspace, and you can spend that on one game that you think is absolutely worth fighting for. Now, this is a game that you think is tied to Jesus' life and values, and it needs to be much higher on the list presently, and something that you're going to have to defend. You're going to present your case for it. Now, at the end of the show, towards the end, once we get through all of this, we'll get to the real defending the case for the actual choices. the actual main games that we have at the top of the list. That's Into the Celeste, the God of War, Wander Song, all those. And I do want to leave that as a nice little carrot on a string for our listeners.
Sure.
Why should these things be discussed? And of course, that's ultimately going to be what our article, once we compile this whole list, we type it all out with our editorial love for all of our writers and designate everything. But for right now, I'm going to first start with our newest recruit, Jonathan R. That R is for recruit, not Reedy. just for right now. And Jonathan, now I want you to look at these games. Now you don't necessarily have to have played one of these. You don't have to have, it doesn't have to be something that you're thoroughly convinced of. Actually, I think that for our first round of tokens, if you will, you cannot pick one that you have personally played.
You're so mean.
Wait. Wait, how does that work?
And then
if I don't do one I've played for, then I'm just gonna pick games I haven't played yet.
Yeah. Okay. Wait. So
I'm trying to make you guys as uncomfortable as possible. I hope that you understand that is my ultimate ambition here. Yeah. So
okay.
You don't have to actually personally defend it. You can act. What you can do is you can say, for example, you really want to hear a case for Assassin's Creed Odyssey. Then you would say, hey, I believe that this should be higher in the list, but I don't know why, and I want to hear someone defend it. Does that sound fair?
Yeah.
Okay, cool.
Okay. The game I haven't played. Okay, well, I know nothing about Minute, and since you added it because Drew was really into it, I'm curious about what Minute is. So I guess my first token goes there, since I have no idea what it is.
That's right. So I think that everyone's going to get 3 tokens. The first token is one that you have not played that you think should maybe go higher, but you're not 100% sure. All right? So this is just your first of 3 tokens. Sound good?
Okay.
All right, Drew, go for it.
Okay.
Can you defend or explain Minute in a way that makes it sound like Jesus might like it?
Yeah, so it's this game where you have a minute to live, and you're cursed, and you're trying to lift the curse off this that's causing you to only live for a minute and then relive that like Groundhog Day, right?
Yeah.
And you literally have a minute to live, and there's all these little puzzles you got to solve. And so each time, though, I suppose what I like about it is that it sort of trains you to try to be really productive in that time, in the time that you have, and to make the most of it. Which I think is like a Jesus-y principle to be mindful of the world around you and try to progress. That's one of my best effort. Joey, are you there?
Have you played it at all?
I have not played. Well, that's a lie. I have played Minute for like
a literal minute.
Like a minute.
Oh, you lived 15 times through that game. You should have already beaten it.
Actually, not even that. I think no, I didn't play it personally. I was on Game Informer's show when I was doing the internship, and they were demoing a Minute, and I didn't play it, but I was watching for about like 10-15 minutes.
Sweet. So you got a good sense of what it's all about.
Yeah.
Sweet.
And I'd say that I would put a vote behind that one as well. A token, as you said.
Yeah. So
because
well, the tokens are preserved for I guess it's technically for a game that you haven't played, so that's good. But this is I know I'm kind of making this all up as I go, so I hope that's completely and abundantly clear.
I believe in you.
You're doing great.
So this is ultimately the way that I want to go about it. I want to say, so Drew made the case. Does anybody feel that is like a good enough case to put that high, like all the way up at like number 10 position right now?
Yes.
Number 10.
So for games, a couple of the more popular games that I hadn't played, I tried to watch other people's reviews of them.
Yeah.
And for a minute, one dude said that there are other modes in the game where you can play that don't have the time limit. Like there's one where you can play as a ghost. And for him, it showed him how kind of like arbitrary the time limit was, and that it like made him angry that you could play without the time limit as that when like the main mode of the game was playing with the time limit. I was wondering if you had any thoughts on that.
That's an interesting perspective because, the minute mechanic to the experience of that game.
Yeah, super essential to it.
Because you're like, it adds an urgency to everything that you do. So just because they allow you not to doesn't mean...
Yeah, it's not negated what's the core play style of the game, I think.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, I don't know.
I would also add that I think that might be like kind of an unfair complaint about the level design. Well, sure, it's like you can play Minute without that constraint, but I think like if you looked at Minute critically in terms of its level design, it's very much structured around the whole concept of like things taking like almost exactly a minute, and you have to like slowly refine your approach to the game in order to progress. So yeah, I would say that something would definitely be lost in the experience, and it would be a far less special game without that.
What I like about it the most, is like that
no games are like that, really.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I think it's worth putting it higher on the list to really consider in a great.
Yeah, we need to keep these short.
Yeah, absolutely. Sweet. So
really debate them later, right?
Yeah, we'll debate it more in more detail because we only each get one token for a game we haven't played. So next, Steph, what's one game on here that you haven't played that you're thinking maybe that should be a little higher?
Well, I have heard. I think I've heard a couple of you guys talk about how Subnautica is really good.
Yeah, so that's also I think that Drew is our
played
resident expert on Subnautica. So have any of you else played Subnautica? All right, cool. So Drew, do you want to explain your? I mean, you wrote an entire article about it. Can you describe why Jesus would love Subnautica?
Yeah, I mean, I think it's. I wrote this whole article about how I compared it to my relationship with my daughter and these little adventures that I take her on. It's a very imaginative, like, game. It's crash land on this island and you're exploring it, and it's covered completely in water, and so you're trying to survive while also like figuring out what happened to this ship that crashed, etc., etc. Anyway, yeah, there's a lot of mystery. Exploring it is super compelling and fun. And it's like, I think very few games get exploration right. And what I mean by that is they make exploration feel...
like you're really stepping into the unknown.
Yeah, mysterious and scary. So, yeah, there's a...
And it doesn't feel like actual level design, because there isn't exactly that in the game, because it's so much so wide and open. There kind of is, because the way it naturally gates you in some ways, but the gating all feels really like natural. It doesn't feel obvious. Yeah. So anyway, I think like the quick answer is I think it's a game that like celebrates creation, celebrates exploration, discovery. Yeah. Awesome. Sweet. So,
joyful, even like joyful moments of finding beautiful things in a world, in a digital space.
Does that sound good to you guys?
Yeah.
Does that sound too much of a stretch?
No.
Oh, Steph's got some ans at you, Drew.
Oh.
Throw them. Toss them, girl.
I just feel like that you could say that about a few games.
A lot of games.
Yeah. So it's about discovery and exploration. I'm like, yeah, I feel that way in Fallout 76.
Yeah.
Right. I think I'm not.
A lot of people don't. But
Yeah. I think I'm not explaining it well, probably, because it really is like a game that makes you earn. You know what I mean? Like you step into Fallout 76 or like Skyrim or something, and it's like really pretty to look at. And I haven't played Fallout 76, so I shouldn't use it as an example. But people like to explore in Skyrim, right? Because it's so pretty.
Mm-hmm. And because there's quests and there's adventure and
right. But it doesn't necessarily make you earn the exploration. Like you can just go anywhere, right? I mean, you might find some monsters that are hard to beat or whatever.
There are leveled areas that you can't go into because of they're too high level for you.
Yeah, and even though Subnautica is kind of inverted upside, it's literally upside down, because considering the deeper you get, the deeper you get into the game, both metaphorically and literally. But is there something that really goes beyond that you can really get at, Drew, that maybe settle and change Steph's mind?
I'm trying. I'm failing. I feel like
it's a hard task.
That's okay.
If not, maybe
we'll circle back. Back.
Okay.
In the water. So the next is Joey. Joey, what is one game that you think should probably be a little higher on the list that you haven't played?
Well, I did say earlier that Minute would have been my choice, but for the sake of diversity, how about? Well, no, I played Way Out. That doesn't count. I know something sort of I've heard the Awesome Adventures of Captain Spirit is actually really good. It
Madeline,
tackles.
Do you wanna step into that one?
Yes,
I can talk about it, certainly. Awesome Adventures of Captain Spirit, I think, diverged from the previous Life is Strange games by having...
I know that, yeah.
By having... can I spoil it? Even though you haven't played it, Joy, or would
I'm
you
not
rather
going to play
not?
it, so...
I think that we're gonna save spoilers towards the end, but if you can tackle...
I can finish that sentence still. Yeah. So in previous Life is Strange games, it doesn't, like, it'll give you a task and it'll say, oh, I need to go and do this, but then you're free to explore still without any consequences. In this game, you are not, and it's even more, it was more meaningful to me because I am playing as a small child. I think he's like 9 or 10, who is at the mercy of everything else in his life. And so the longer I wasted time looking at stuff in his room, the stronger the consequences were for him. And so I took on, unwittingly, the role of his protector as he tried to go about his normal morning at home with his dad.
Yeah. Yeah, that's a beautiful way of putting it, considering this is probably my one of my biggest picks for games that really let you love on someone who needs more love in their life. And it's not often like most games, I feel either connected to the main character in some way or something along those lines. But in this one, you feel like you want to do everything so that their life gets better. Not as
absolutely.
Not like you're living through them as your personal avatar.
Yeah.
And there's something about it's ultimately not the main focus of the game is your relationship with the boy's dad. And how he processes through that experience. And so I wanted to like segment out, because one of the themes this year is games where you're dealing with a father-son dynamic in some way, shape, or form. So I think that's going to be one of our biggest conversations this year, is whether or not which dad game is the best dad game.
Sub awards.
Yeah. Well,
so
it also
go ahead, Steph.
It also touches, I think, The Adventures of Captain Spirit touches very lightly, but yet elegantly, on a couple of, that I won't go into, but a couple of, or at least one very hard issue. And I think it does so in a way that isn't pushing it into your face, but it's very natural and very realistic.
Yeah. And done with more tact than, well, I know you like David Cage games, but he always seems to get the subject
I agree.
Difficult things very, very poorly.
Very heavy hand.
Yeah, which is a bad thing to deal with on the subject of domestic issues.
I'll readily admit that about David Cage games.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure it's unavoidable. Cool. So, Madeline, do you have one game on the list that you haven't played that you think needs to be higher on the list? Because I'm pretty sure we're going to say that Captain Spirit needs to be at the top of our second rung so far.
Yeah.
Okay.
So if I played an hour of a beta of a game, does that count as actually playing?
I'll let it slide just this once, but you better not do it again.
Okay.
Wow.
So tell me about Fallout 76, because I know we have a couple people here that want to defend that.
Yeah.
Steph, have you defended a game already?
She hasn't yet. I think you need to put on the spot on this one.
I haven't defended
She and
a
Jonathan
game.
are both for this one.
Okay, so I haven't defended a game, but it wasn't me that put it on this list.
That's a good point.
Okay.
I love Fallout 76 to death, but I didn't think that it needed to be on the list.
Yeah, as a Jesus angle.
So Jonathan, then? Tell me.
Okay. Well, okay. To be honest, when I put things on the list, I was just looking for things that people hadn't already listed.
Jonathan.
Totally valid.
I will defend it, and
do me proud, Jonathan. Do me proud.
Defend it with all your heart,
Jonathan,
I can tell.
You're on the spot now.
I will
keep talking.
Okay. Well, my main defense with Fallout 76 was just how it's one of those games. It's kind of the big controversy around it was like they said it was you could play it single player, whether it's online multiplayer and all this stuff, and because I was kind of expecting it to be exactly what it is, a fun multiplayer game. It's like, it's a world that you can go in alone, and you can pretty much play through majority of the game alone, but you're not going to have fun doing it alone, because
your main
it's a
case
world.
For it is that it's about Jesus is all about community, and he wants us to be able to do things with other people.
Yes, yeah. God didn't design us to be alone. Like, he created us for the express purpose of having fellowship with him and relationships with others and those around us and with all of his creation. So it's like, that's what I love about Fallout 76 is like,
is that it's really connecting you with others.
Yeah, it's a game where you're supposed to experience this new world.
Does it do anything?
Others.
Does it do anything like unique in that regard? Because
that really draws you to another person in a way that, say, for example, like Red Dead Online does not.
So you can say that for like pretty much any multiplayer game, but like what makes Fallout?
But when we did this podcast back in the day for another outlet, our conversation always gravitated towards one multiplayer game, but it was always a multiplayer game that pushed something over, that really kind of like drew out this one aspect of relationship out that drew to a better level of intimacy. And
let's hear from Jonathan. Is there anything special, or is it just standard multiplayer stuff?
Well, I honestly haven't played a whole lot of multiplayer anything. Except for this year.
Well, Steph, you've played it too. So
yes, yeah.
I want to hear what you have to say about it.
Oh, man.
Tag team.
Well, I said like I think like the one thing that I don't think honestly I don't think that it really does anything special. Like to me, like it's the whole like controversy behind it and people just raising Cain about it, and raising Cain, guys, that's a new word.
Yeah,
and you love it, and you love your kids.
Right. Like, I mean, as I said, like, I didn't put it on this list. I didn't think.
That's okay.
But,
so,
I'm enjoying it. This is
just what happens, is that we end up having to kind of, like, defend something or decide whether or not it's worth defending. Yeah.
Is it an accurate depiction of post-apocalyptic West Virginia?
Yeah. I mean,
She was making the claim that you're currently living in post-apocalyptic West Virginia.
That's like the 80th time I've heard that. So that's cool.
My biggest question is, Steph, can
you
find your burned out house of real life in the game?
What, Josh?
Can you find your real house burned out in the game?
I haven't necessarily tried to pinpoint that area yet. I mean, it's all kind of crazy. I mean,
it's a big world.
But getting down the brass tacks, like for me at least, like it doesn't do anything new. For me, it's the whole point of if I were to argue anything, it's that the controversy around it, like just people just like getting up all in arms. Negatively over it instead of just enjoying the game for what it is. But that can be said about a lot of games in itself as well.
Mm-hmm.
So
there's part of me that like
no arguments really to keep.
Yeah.
There's part of me that wants to include it just for that reason, just to make like the gamers that are
all make gamers unhappy.
Yes.
True as the rabble rousing.
We all have that in our hearts.
Number 1 on the list, Fallout 76. People are going nuts, guys.
Jesus will love it so hard.
Satan's top 10
Jesus loves those nylon
Jesus
bags.
loves it because it really needs some love.
I'm actually wearing, I just remembered though, I'm wearing this t-shirt that says Jesus loves gamers, so I should probably not say suck it gamers.
Maybe it's a possibility. So the question is, I'll just leave it at the bottom for right now. That's fine. Moving along now, Drew, you've had
if I can just say one thing.
Sure, go for it, Jonathan.
I do not think Fallout 76 should be on the list.
Oh, okay.
Oh yeah,
Sweet.
I agree. I think we're all in agreement.
Yeah. All right, cool. So moving along, Drew, do you have one on this list that you haven't played that you think that should be higher?
So I read just now, Jonathan, I read your defense of Dead Cells, which is a game that I've been wanting to play for a while.
How much have you played of it, Jonathan?
I don't know the exact number, but considering I was playing it right before we started,
so super fresh.
A good bit, and I've only had it a couple weeks, but I've been playing it like crazy the past couple weeks.
Sweet.
So I'm better prepared for this one.
So do you have like a particular I've played a good bit of this one. What would you say is the Jesus angle on Dead Cells?
I mean, I guess it's kind of similar to what Drew said with Minute, but like you're like the whole point of the game is to die basically, and then learn from your death, and then continue on. And what really like struck me about it was just how in life it's like we kind of have to like die to our own expectations and die to our own desires and just pick up the pieces and just follow where God's going to lead us next. Like we don't know what's going to happen, and it's okay for us to fail. Like we are meant to fail. And in this game, it's like to even progress the game past the first level is you have to die the first level, and then they'll be like, so you died. Okay, well, you're alive again. Go do it again. You know, and
where did you learn?
Yeah, exactly.
That's what I like about these types of games. I haven't played Dead Cells, but I feel like I went into a deep dive over this last year. It's part of why. The other reason I haven't played a lot of games is because I played a lot of Soulsborne games this last year.
Yeah.
I played Bloodborne. I played Bloodborne. I played Dark Souls 3, both all the way through.
Yeah.
And I feel like this has some of the same. And we've never had a game like that, I don't think, on
our official
list. This is the first list. This is the first Jesus Goaties.
Yeah.
So, but I do think these types of games, you could make the argument that every game deals with failure, but I do think these games encourage you to go into the world with a very careful,
cautiousness,
to be deliberate in what you do in the world. Mm-hmm. And so I think there's a parallel there to like even the beginning of the Bible, like with Genesis, where God's bringing order out of chaos. And that's sort of what these games are, is like stepping into a place that's chaotic.
Yeah.
That's chaotic, and learning how to bring order.
Drew's case on it.
I think that's cool because I've been playing the Dark Souls trilogy for the past few months. I'm almost finished with 3. And like what he was saying about like it being a hostile world, that's like a good representation of like the first Dark Souls, where you're just kind of dropped into this indifferent, cold world that's totally against you and doesn't really help you. But you still have like NPCs along the way that will help you out, glimmers of hope, hints here and there. And I think worlds like that are really compelling because I think like, life. I don't know if it's dark or not suddenly, but like life is like that sometimes, where like things might just seem totally hopeless sometimes, but
it's just a matter of getting up again.
Yeah, and you have people to turn to here and there, and moments where like things aren't so bad. And if Dead Cells, go back to Dead Cells, is like that, since it emulates a lot of Dark Souls design.
Well, it captures a lot of the spirit. It feels way different, but it captures that same spirit. For sure.
Yeah, that's one game that I would really like to play as well.
Okay.
Once I'm done with Dark Souls 3.
Understandable. I'm going to put that under Subnautica for right now, and I'm going to give I'm going to give myself a token. Is that all right?
Sure.
No.
You're making the rules.
All right, sweet.
That's true.
As long as I'm all right with that sort of thing. My Child Lebensborn. I got this game. I played a good, hour of it, but I didn't get very far into it, and in my mind, I have not played it because the heart of it is so good and also dark, and I'm terrified of it, and I'm excited about it, but not enough to actually like open it up again on my phone and play more of it. So Madeline, you've played a lot of this. You're the one who voted for it on the list. Can you explain what it is and why you think it might be Jesus worthy?
So this is post World War II. Let me find where I wrote the thing about it. Post World War II Norway, you're a single mother that has adopted a child that was born of a union between a Nazi Germany soldier and a native Norwegian woman. The Norwegian woman has given up her child because obviously that pregnancy was something that was not a happy thing for her in the fallout of World War II. And everybody in your town knows that your child is of German origin and proceed to lay into her every chance they get, and you as a single parent have to try and keep her fed and clothed and in somewhat semblance of a healthy childhood amidst all of that hatred.
So it's a
that
heart.
sounds like it should be on the list.
Yeah,
Description. I'm already like, man.
Yeah, it is. And
like that theme speaks to something very controversial that I'm thinking about. But I'm really gravitated toward that game now.
And this is a mobile game too. So like,
is it now?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
It's mobile only. It's only on iOS and Android, I believe.
Just to give you a taste, like this morning, I was going through the list and like picked up a couple of games that I hadn't played yet, and this was one of them. And I started playing it at 4:00, and it was 8:15 when I stopped.
Nice.
And I'm not even finished. It's not even like I was that drawn into it, and literally points of crying while playing this game.
Yeah.
The last mobile game to do that to me was Florence.
Yeah.
I haven't
Another
played
game
many
that
mobile
didn't make
games,
it on
but-
this list.
Oof.
Ooh.
Wait, did that come out this year?
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
January.
Did
Not January. No, it was like March or something. But too late. We missed it. You missed it. You missed your window,
wants to throw a
Joey. Sorry.
Well,
But yeah, sweet. So my child Lebensborn, that needs to go higher on the list. We're just gonna put it like, should we put that above Captain Spirit right now, or just somewhere like right next to one another?
I think so.
Having played both, I would say yes, but
Yes.
Okay, cool.
I would. I played
We'll get
both.
to placements and all that stuff later. So cool. So that concludes our first round of tokens. This next.
Wait, didn't Madeline say one?
yeah, I did Fallout 76.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Oh,
Yeah.
okay.
So she's the only one who got like
Salt
shot
of the
down,
wound.
shot down.
Just wanted to bring that up again.
Sorry.
Yeah. All right. So next is now I want everyone's going to get I think maybe 2 more votes. Well, actually, we're just going to make it 1 because I think our list is long enough that we don't need to go through. I'm going to change the rules on the fly because I'm terrible, and we're going to go with the one game that you play that you think desperately needs to be higher on this list. And ready, set, go, Drew.
Oh gosh, the one game that I played in the remaining games.
Yeah, from 16 to 28, we got Ni no Kuni, Iconoclast, Life is Strange Before the Storm, Octopath, A Way Out, Detroit, Pangolin Puzzle,
So-
Tiny Bubbles.
The one that I played that would be
Yeah.
better is none of those.
Okay. All right, so
Well,
I didn't play any of
Drew
those.
passes. Sweet. So next we have Madeline. Madeline, ready, set, go.
So the one that I would want to be on the list of these
Yeah.
would probably be Smoke and Sacrifice. I didn't initially nominate it, but of the list, it's the one that I played that I would put above
Okay.
the other ones I played. Smoke and Sacrifice, you're playing as a single mother.
Oh, again, I like the trend.
So we have 2 games for Mom of the Year
Yes.
in our running.
Okay, that makes me so much more relieved because I thought we were going to have a Dad of the Year problem.
You're playing as a single mother who everybody in your village sacrifices their firstborn child to the sun tree to keep your little island of heat alive in this frozen wasteland. And at some point, your village gets attacked, and the single mom decides, I don't really believe that the system is keeping us safe anymore. And so she follows her son down to the underworld and goes on a million. It basically becomes Don't Starve, but with a campaign, and you have to try and get your son back, and end up overturning generations of religion and tradition in the process.
I like it. I like it. Jesus had a little bit to say about overthrowing other religions.
Establishment. Yes.
Yeah, including the traditions of his own
Mhm.
culture. Cool.
Yep.
So, yeah, who's sold on that? Do you think it should be higher?
I would say though that Jesus, just to push back a little bit,
Oh, sure.
I'm not sure that Jesus overthrew religion so much as corruptions
Yes.
of
Yes. Which
as he did legalism.
which you could to get into details of the game. There are people that still believe in the spirit of the sun tree, even as they no longer believe in the systems that were supposedly keeping it running. So
okay, so it's not just like a slam on religion.
no, it's not like there is no God, there's only science. It's like, we don't need to sacrifice babies to keep our society going, you know.
Yeah.
That's improvement.
Yeah, that's a fair point.
I'm down with that.
Yeah.
Sacrifice goat.
So Madeline, where would you feel that should be?
God.
Where should I put that right now?
It's fine where it is. So
Okay.
this is under Dead Cells currently.
Yeah, under Dead Cells right now, so in 15. Okay, cool. Cool. So, Jonathan, are there any others on this list that you feel really passionate about that you think should be higher?
Well, I didn't initially nominate it, but I would say Octopath Traveler.
Oh yeah. Who here has played that?
I have.
You have, okay, you haven't. I have too.
Right.
Drew, have you tried it?
Demo, so I don't feel.
Okay. Yeah, I only played the demo, so I don't feel super qualified, but I have got my hands on it.
Yeah. Well, the reason I didn't nominate it is because I've been meaning to get back to it, but my Switch broke.
Game.
Yeah, my Switch broke after I got to like the first chapter of each of them, and so I haven't gone back to it. But from what I played of it, I love it just because. I mean, kind of going back to like it's almost like it's the building of the community. It's almost like building up like in my mind. It's almost like the companionship of like the disciples, you know?
Yeah, of like a church,
yeah, and just how it's like all these characters come from like completely different backgrounds, but you're all together to help each other with each other's goals, and just like
that's huge.
Each one has their own mission, their own story, their own purpose, you know, but that doesn't keep them separate. I mean, they're just like, they're all a team. They're all travelers together.
Cool. So what do you guys think? Should that be on the list? Higher? Yes,
I like the idea of like this disparate group of people that learn to like there's strengths and accept each other's weaknesses and work together. Like, I think
that reminds me of Pyre a little bit.
This thing to do. But I also feel like the list we have above that are pretty strong. So I'm not like.
So
I like the
it's
argument.
Really ultimately about. Do you think that it's going to be and it should go above anything else that we have on the list right now?
I feel like no, but you guys can push back if you want.
Yeah.
I wish I played more of it.
That's okay.
Give me 20 hours.
I feel like given our political climate this year, there's a lot to be said for embracing people that are different than us. So that would be my argument for maybe why it should go above 16. As to where, I don't know. But
okay. How about you, Steph? Do you think it should go higher?
I don't have that much. I don't have with it, but I mean, I would go along
just
with
going on Jonathan's case. I mean, he made a good case.
Yeah, I mean, I would put it maybe above 50. But I personally am not sure about going any higher than that.
Okay. And we'll start fighting things out soon. All right, sweet. Next. Just as a reinforcement, no one is allowed to be sorry. If you want to be sorry in this conversation, you're not allowed.
So there's a quote from a game that we haven't talked about yet on this list that says, "Sorry is for people who are not, so don't be."
There you go.
Sweet, yeah. But
what game is that from?
Jonathan, you made a really good case.
Speed dating for ghosts.
Oh, nice.
Oh, yeah.
Sweet. So, next, Joey, did you give one?
I have not yet. No.
Yes, sweet. So, one that should definitely go on the list, or at least have a higher placement. Ready, set, go.
I was gonna say Detroit originally, but if this is a list of games,
this is really like it's got to really count, but
a way out.
A way out. Okay.
Yeah.
Cool. What's your case for it?
Well, it involves a little bit. Well, getting across the theme of it is a little spoilery. So does anybody?
Well,
if you get out,
it's very important for my point.
Well, I mean, I could say some things about it as well. But...
Yeah, Steph. What would without getting into spoilers too hard? What would be your case for?
Spoilers. I mean, if I was trying to give a case for it, I would say because I mean with the game. I mean, I don't think what I'm saying is spoilers, but like the game is it's basically forcing two players to kind of co-op the game. I mean, you can do online co-op or couch co-op. Yeah. And I've never really, I've played co-op games before, obviously, but this does it in a way to where, like, you have to really heavily rely on each other, and just even from like mechanics of movement, like because there's this one part where you're like moving
in an elevator shaft.
Yeah, the shaft, and
you have to lean into each other's back and like progressively,
exactly. And so it requires a lot of communication and a lot of like, and you can do it without communication. Like Jonathan, was it you that played it, and like you and your partner didn't you didn't have voice chat?
Yeah, no, we did it without voice chat.
Yeah,
I don't know how you did it.
Who were sleeping.
Yeah, so so you can do it, but having that communication is
was that miserable?
An important key.
No, for me, like it made it a much more memorable experience because
you just had to really
because it was funny
in the game.
Yeah, this is I'm not gonna go into any spoilers, but one of my favorite parts was I was like in the prison. I'm like, okay, I'm gonna do this thing. Like I had my vision of like, this is what we're going to do. And then he went off and did his own thing. Yeah. And like, I looked over at his like side of the street and he's like in a whole nother room, like cutting the power. And I'm like, what?
Yeah.
I was like, but I loved it. Cause then we would like, I play with my coworker. And then, so like the next day we'd come into work and we'd be like, man, can you believe this happened? And we just laugh about it. And
that's
awesome.
And that's one thing. Interesting thing is that you, even if you're not in the same room, you can see what the other player is doing on the other. It's because it's split screen, no matter what. And and just like that really works. They did a good job of working that into the story, and you kind of get that kind of building of kind of like the buddy friendship sort of thing as you continue on in the story, and then things happen later. But I won't go into that.
That's okay.
Things happen later.
Drew, based on what everyone else has said, why would you put that on the list?
Me? Did you ask me? Sorry.
Yeah.
I still don't feel like that it needs to be
on the list.
I just find it like
I don't really like these guys. I don't think that anything that they're doing is good. They're clearly criminals.
Did you play that game, Josh?
I only played like the first act. I got to see.
Yeah.
Okay.
They found their first way out, but they were still in.
Things happen that would have changed your mind, I think.
Yeah.
Okay. I swear, it's like things happen is like such a key thing here. It's preventing me from like putting this higher up on the list because I think again, like refraining from saying things, it could be 10 or 9.
Well, and even you saying like, oh, they're clearly bad guys, but you start learning more about them as you play the game. Yeah. Like in any game about a bad guy, you learn, that's the main player. You start learning more about them. You start seeing humanity exactly, and and then it's really like you really kind of grow to like to like them, to kind of be like, okay, like these, things happened, like they did bad things, but they're trying to make themselves better.
Make things right.
Exactly. Yeah. Exactly, and so it's
this sounds very, very similar in a lot of ways to the setup of Red Dead Redemption. Any of you guys who are vouching for this play Red Dead?
Jonathan?
I have.
Red Dead 2, of course. We're talking about Red Dead 2.
It's a completely different game style, but sure.
Oh, it's definitely a different game style, but very, very similar in the themes that you're pointing out. That's why I ask.
Yeah, it sounds like a better representation of that theme.
I would argue that it's more personal than Red Dead Redemption.
Yeah. I would say that too, just for the fact that even though the characters are like they have their own stories, it's stories written and everything, just the fact that you're playing with another living person playing that character, just immediately like it was funny. Like I picked Leo and my friend chose Vincent, and I originally picked Leo because I'm like, I'm going to pick the character I don't normally pick. Like I normally would have gotten Vincent all the way, but I'm like, no, I'm going to pick Leo. And then like as we play, I was like, Leo's the best character. And he's like, no, Vincent's the best character. I'm like, excuse me?
Like
it's
really
like
bonded to them.
Yeah. And then it's so just like it made the like. I mean, I love Red Dead 2, but it's like just the fact like those are just NPCs scripted and everything. Whereas like this was my friend playing as Vincent.
Should A Way Out replace Red Dead then?
Oh gosh. We would get so much hate.
If it succeeds in communicating,
do you feel
better if it's similar?
Sorry, what was that?
I said, should it replace Red Dead if it better succeeds at
I
communicating.
think that we're not quite there yet. I think that
Okay.
at least putting it higher on the list is recommended at this point.
I agree.
I would say 12.
Yeah, 12? I would say 12.
Right.
Yeah,
We'll put it at 12
I would
right
agree
now.
with that. Yeah.
All right, sweet. All right, now we've got a handful of others here. I'm gonna cede my vote. I don't feel like any of these need to be higher. Let's see who hasn't gone yet. Steph, did you pick one?
I haven't picked one, but honestly, looking at 18 through 28, there's really nothing that
you feel really needs to be higher.
Right. No, yeah. I mean, like I played some of them, and I love like Life is Strange Before the Storm. I love that.
That was also a little bit controversial because most of the episode was out before this year, so I don't know. It qualifies sorta, but only because of when it finished.
No, I agree. So none of those, like even though I like some of those games, like none of those I'd be like, yes, those deserve above what we have. So
okay,
I'm fine.
Cool. Sweet. So, anybody else have anything that they want to higher than what it is right now?
2, I would argue. Detroit, and I haven't played it, but I've heard good things about Iconoclasts.
Yeah, I would want to defend Iconoclasts, except for the fact that I only have 3-4 hours into it, and I love the whole word Iconoclast means to tear down the idols that have come before you and to find a better way of faith. Essentially, that's what iconoclasm is. And the game is you find yourself in kind of a space colony where everyone worships this authoritarian goddess, and you're trying to make the world a better place, but all those people who worship her are the man, essentially, which is funny considering they worship a goddess. But yeah, so I would love to make a much more elaborate case for it, but I can't right now.
Okay.
Yeah.
Cool. So so far we have it down to 17. We've made good progress. And so far we have just reading from the top. Jonathan, we haven't heard quite enough from you. So would you mind reading our list starting from first place?
Okay, starting from first place is Celeste. Second place is God of War. Third is Wandersong. 4 is Red Dead Redemption 2. 5 is Spider-Man. 6 is Where the Water Tastes Like Wine. 7 is Speed Dating for Ghost. 8 is Return of the Obra Dinn. 9 is Donut County. 10 is My Child Lebensborn. 11 is The Awesome Adventures of Captain Spirit. 12, A Way Out. 13, Minute. 14, Subnautica. 15, Dead Cells. 16, Octopath Traveler. And 17, Smoke and Sacrifice.
Yeah, so I think that's a really good list. The only thing is we have to, as they say in writing, kill your darlings. So we are going to do some murder, unfortunately, yes, to glorify Jesus. No.
Wow. Wow.
Segue.
I just want this to be like the intro to this podcast, and take that line, put in the front, and cue the intro.
Yeah, that's how you get people to not listen. But I said it so it's quotable. We have a pretty hard thing that we got to do here. We got to basically make all these games fight one another for Jesus. Which is a super weird thing. So I feel like the first game we have to talk about is God of War, because it's on our list. And we currently have, what is that? That's 6 stars. That's pretty high rated for a game where you play as a violent pagan god. So why are we saying that Jesus would love that? How many of you guys have played this?
I have.
I've not have read a lot of articles about it.
Cool. I'm halfway through the game. I don't even know if I'm halfway through the game. I think that I'm halfway through the game. I'm probably about, I don't know, I'm like 10 hours into it. So I have thoughts and feelings, but I'm going to really let Joey and Jonathan lead this one. Joey, could you frame for us why this is on our list for games that Jesus would love?
Well, I mean, one of the things that people point out most with the game in terms of story is the father-son dynamic between Kratos and Atreus.
Yeah.
And what's really interesting to me, like, with that relationship, I played the whole God of War saga this year before playing this soft reboot.
So that's 1 through 3, any of the offshoots?
Yeah, 1, 2, 3, Chains of Olympus, Ghost of Sparta, all of them.
Oh, wow. So seriously, all of them. Wow. Impressive.
Yeah. And the thing that strikes me about Kratos is that, like, at first I thought he was just some meathead,
That's
you know, like,
yelling
I'm
all the
gonna
time.
kill all the gods, you know, just straight
Yeah.
from the start. But like he's a family man. Before he, you know,
Lost it all.
descended into madness.
Yeah.
And he gets caught in the cycle of like tragedy because of like the sins of the gods and his own sins, and like they just keep compounding on top of each other, and like this, it's almost like you don't know who to blame in the end because everyone's at fault.
He's killed everybody. Yeah.
Yeah, and like the gods sort of like egged him on to do so in a way.
The Greek gods did. Yeah. So,
yeah.
So this game puts you into his shoes in the Norse pantheon, and without getting too far into spoilers, does he become a better person?
He's getting there. What's cool about how God of War starts out is that he's sort of like retreated from the world because he saw the destruction that he unleashed by the end of God of War 3, that basically destroying the whole Greek world. And he just like shut down. And decided like, I'm just gonna escape from it all. Like I can't be saved from myself. Like he has moments of like self-awareness like that. So because of that, he has a really hard time relating to Atreus and like trying to be a good father to him.
Yeah, he feels like a really, really nasty parent that I don't want to be.
Yeah, very, very distant. Like he doesn't know what to do half the time with Atreus. Yeah. But what I think is really cool about God of War, like with that relationship, is that both of them don't really know what to do with each other because like Kratos has his problems and Atreus has his problems as well. And they have to learn how to work within each other's issues, sort of like, as a family, and figure out how to make each other better. Because one of the things that's really cool is that in the beginning of the game, Kratos tells Atreus, do not be sorry, be better. He's telling Atreus to be better the whole time, and putting shifting the focus on him, like for him to improve. But towards the end of the game, both of them realize that like it's a team effort, and that like both of them have things they can do to be better. So it's I think it's a really powerful depiction in that sense. Something I really didn't expect from God of War, because there's like a couple, I think, deep themes here and there underneath its bombastic story, but like this new one really takes his simple character and really makes something special out of it with the addition of Atreus. So
would you add anything to that, Jonathan?
I mean, just continuing what Joey said. I mean, I bought this game day one, and I have never had any prior experience with God of War.
God of War, yeah.
I saw like just the original promotion for it when they first revealed it, and just seeing just how like it was. I guess the big thing is like, even though this is called God of War and you play as a god of war in a world with all these Norse gods roaming around doing stuff, these are like some of the most like human characters I've seen in a game. Kind of going off what Joey said, it's like they're broken, they're faulted, and like they don't know what to do with their relationship, and so it's like the entire game is like, okay, we gotta figure out, we gotta just pick up the pieces and move on and just try to see where this takes us. And it's
also, like in the very beginning of the game, you find out that this is a journey of grief that they're on. They're not like going to win something. They're going to. I mean, it's the very beginning of the framing of the game is they're delivering ashes to the top of a mountain. So I have no idea where that goes, but it's not a traditional power fantasy.
Here's my question.
Yeah.
About God of War.
Yeah, Drew, do it, Drew.
Like, everything I've read about the relationship between Kratos and Atreus, I like everything you guys just said. I like that it deals with a son who like don't know how to handle each other. Like so many depictions of fatherhood in pop culture are like nuance. It's either great dads or terrible dads, and nothing in between. So I like that this is sort of a more accurate, probably portrayal of like dads who don't know what they're doing. And anyway, I'm a big believer in the fact that games stories are primarily told through what we do in them. Like there may be a lot of games have this great narrative story that kind of happens in between what you're actually doing in the game.
Mm-hmm.
If any of this comes through what you actually like, the input you as a player are putting into the system. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
If the story is mostly told through cutscenes and sort of,
and you smashing enemies.
Yeah. Does that have anything to do with this heartfelt story of
the father-son relationship, the connection?
I'd say minimally, because throughout the game, as Kratos and Atreus learn to work with each other better in terms of their relationship, you see that reflected in gameplay too, where Atreus will more effortlessly perform the moves that you want him to do, and he'll improve as a warrior. And it's kind of funny. People make fun of like the square button for this game is like to get Atreus to do things. People call it the boy button. Boy, do this.
Boy.
Boy.
But what's funny is that it's sometimes easy to forget it's there. And what's cool is that like all it takes is like a simple call out, like for Atreus to turn the tide of tackling this enemy in front of you, like getting on top of him from behind while you wail on him with your axe, or stunning an enemy with electric arrows, so you can have an opportunity to escape like a bad predicament or something.
Now, this all sounds really good, but it sounds like pretty inferior to like A Way Out, where you're really depending on a real other person and building a real relation.
It also sounds like that Atreus is teaching, not Atreus. It sounds like Dad is teaching Boy how to be a great warrior. Does Dad teach Boy how to be a better man? Is my question.
I think
can a god teach a man? No.
Is there a difference? Just kidding.
I don't know. That goes into some big philosophical questions in this game.
I'm going to cut off the philosophy because we gotta kill some gods here. Madeline, where would you put that on this? Where would you put this game, God of War, on the list? Would you put that, say, above or below?
I would say definitely not number 2. I would say probably 8 or below.
Yeah, I'm just
for now.
I want to know whether or not you would put it above or below A Way Out in particular, because we're talking about a relationship game where you're dealing with another person and growing that relationship, and whether or not. Now, Jonathan, I'm going to put this on you. How do you think better. It relates to A Way Out?
Okay, it's hard, but
it's very hard, and I'm putting all the weight on you, squarely on your shoulders. Welcome to the team.
I think just the relationship in God of War is the father. I mean, as much as I love A Way Out, and like it's like two guys who are like in prison, and it's like they're forced to cooperate, and then through that forced cooperation, they build a relationship. It's kind of like a relationship.
That's okay. How about you, Joey? Would you put it above A Way Out?
I think, to put it simply, I think God of War is better than A Way Out in terms of its story and what it has to say about fatherhood and raising a kid. But I think A Way Out as a game does more stuff that's like mechanically interesting, compelling.
Sure.
And mechanically contributes to narrative.
Yes, exactly. Yeah. I would agree with that. So, I wouldn't put God of War like 8 or 9. I'd say more like 7.
We're not talking about numbers yet. We're not talking about numbers. It's about entirely the relationship to the other games that are on the list right now. So, above or below The Awesome Adventures of Captain Spirit in your mind?
Above.
Yeah, above.
How about you, Madeline?
That's probably fair.
Okay. We'll kvetch about that because I think it should be way below, but we'll just leave it there for now.
I think it should be less.
Next,
you think it should be below?
It'd be really high on the doties.
Yeah, on the doties. Absolutely.
Yes.
Well, maybe
Dad
I don't know.
awards.
I want to talk about that a lot. So I have this
Where's Dad and
feeling.
Boy on my Dodie list?
Yeah, the Dad of the Year games. Yeah. Okay, so I think that Celeste and Wandersong and Red Dead Redemption are probably going to be our top 3.
Oh.
I want to know if there's any.
I don't know about that.
I feel like those have so many high stars, and we should. All right, is there one that you feel should be drastically lower? Anyone that feel that should
Maybe
be
not drastically lower, but I'm just gonna no.
I want
For
to.
me, oh, go
What do
ahead.
you want to do, Steph?
No. I was just gonna I was about to say something, but it's all personal because I have a personal vendetta. Not only vendetta, but I'm just kind of like Red Dead Redemption 2. I just feel like is anyways. But
All right, let's talk about it.
No, I think it's good.
I want
would
to
agree
hear a
with that.
case for Red Dead Redemption 2.
Yeah, I want to hear
because-
I do
someone who
as
makes
well.
a case for it. I just finished it last week. I think it's good, but not great. So,
Okay.
who wants to?
I have not finished it.
Okay.
Okay.
So we're going to try to avoid too many spoilers because obviously the game is very spoilery. But it's a sequel. It's going to do things the first one did. So I feel like the themes of the first one are on the table.
You
I
played
never
it,
played the
right?
first one.
Oh, okay. All right. Cool. Who wants to tackle Red Dead Redemption and defend it in some way, shape, or form?
I feel like I should try just because it's one of the few games I've played.
Yeah, I was gonna say.
Yeah.
I thought
go
you
for it,
played
Drew. Have at it.
Yeah.
Although I just said earlier, I do think it should be lower if it makes the list.
All right. How about this? Say
Well,
where
let
you
me-
think it should go on the list, and then talk about why you think it should go there.
Okay. I mean, 9 or 10 even.
Okay. So let's say Red Dead Redemption as it relates to God of War.
So I guess so I think it should, I think God of War is probably a better Jesus, right? So it's not what I like.
Jesus.
Stop Jesus, Jesus.
I think Jesus would be more into God of War.
Quote of the day.
Yeah. So I think it's a great story. It does a great job of sort of the love that these villains have for each other and their softer sides, and the fact that they're not just defined by their acts,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
But that's what Rockstar is famous for. Like they've done that a lot. Like what I think makes it great is the story's fine. It's fun. There's a ton of term that people use, ludonarrative dissonance, right? This idea
you're shooting
of
40 dudes and
how the
these,
gameplay
yeah.
match with the story, you know?
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's a
Yeah.
fancy
I'm an all right
word.
person. I
shouldn't
think
have
I'm an
used
all
it,
right
but-
person. I do not about guys. It's no big deal.
But so it's this term that has been thrown out by game critics and stuff, but it's when you kill so many people that don't deserve to be killed in that game, and it's over and over and over that it doesn't match with this very human story that's being told about Arthur Morgan.
Yeah.
This
Every other
sort of
mission you kill at least
how he's
20
really
dudes.
a decent fellow and stuff,
Yeah.
but it doesn't really compute. So to me, what makes that game great is just all the crazy crap that happens, that you find yourself trying to wiggle out of or find a way out
You're
of.
trying to make
It's a
something
great
good out of a big,
emergent narrative
disgusting
game where
mess.
these
Yeah.
crazy stories kind of arise out of.
Can you give us
So-
an example?
If I was going to make an argument for why Jesus liked it, for me, it would have less to do with the story and more to do with
Things that you
detailed
do off the path.
and fun. It is,
Yeah.
Jesus
That works.
and I know that sounds
Just
like
dropping it on the list.
well, that sounds like a lame. That sounds like a lame argument, but
Yeah.
I really do think that one of the best things about video games is that they're really and they make us feel good, and
Yeah.
Jesus is down with that. Jesus doesn't want us to feel bad about ourselves. I don't think he's opposed to us having a good time, and this is one of the so much fun in this game. Literally, it's brought so much joy. Time I have each night to play. It's been a blast. I just laugh and smile the whole time I'm playing it.
So
That's
that's
noteworthy.
can I push
Go ahead,
back
Steph.
a little bit?
Yeah,
Yeah, please do.
Go ahead, Madeline. Yeah.
So the piece that we ran on our website about things we accidentally did in Red Dead Redemption 2 seemed to all be about things that accidentally happened that we didn't intend to do, that just happened because we pushed the wrong button or because
Right.
maybe the controls are laid
Accidentally
out.
press the kill button because
A little
it's
weird.
very close to the talk
Yeah.
button.
Do you think that Jesus this is? It feels weird to say Jesus would think it's funny to accidentally kill somebody instead of give them $5. To me.
True. Very true.
I think that's a good point.
I think it's a good point.
Like, I understand that, like, this is a game, and Jesus obviously understands this is a game, so we're not actually killing someone instead of giving them $5, but it bugs me.
I get it. Yeah, that would be my own... You mean, you basically made the argument that I would have made.
It's like, I do nothing but smile and have a great time in Fallout 76, but I didn't think it should be on the list, so...
Sorry.
I'm not. I could say some other things about the game. Like the things that really resonated with me were about the nature of being a part of a church-like community and trying to, and literally believing that this leader is actively looking for a better way. Like, that's looking for radical inclusivity of people of different ethnicity and people who are down and out and people who are hurting and really having a place for them. But ultimately it being a lie. And ultimately, like, you finding yourself at the end of it. Oh, what was that? Oh, sure, sorry.
That's a bit of a spoiler. That's okay.
Yeah.
I mean, I feel like you could see that coming.
Yeah, I mean, well, ultimately, I mean, the game is a prequel. We all know that the gang falls apart at some point. And that the guy that's leading things, I mean, like, he's someone that's found in Red Dead 1 as a bad guy. It's not really that big of a spoil. It's hard to deal with spoilers and prequels, but the thing that I won't get into is too much of... I'll try not to get the main character, but yeah, thank you for cutting me off on spoilers. But yeah, so anyway, like, there's lots of points in here that I was, like, shoegazing and really reflecting on my own disappointments in church life and church community, and thinking about the people who I've lost as friendships that I've been ghosted by, and all those things. And I think that it was a really healthy and good and positive thing for me to think about, but I don't feel like... Sure, I found Jesus in it, but I don't feel like that was part of the intrinsic design of the game, or that's what... That's not going... That's a mileage will vary to play this game.
This is more like a personal resonance with you.
Right.
Yeah, well, I mean, I would have made the argument with talking about the relationship aspect of Red Dead Redemption 2, but then as I was talking about A Way Out earlier, it's like, if we compared God of War with A Way Out, it's like Red Dead Redemption 2's relationships compared to A Way Out, it's like they're both are criminals that, criminals, like, becoming family, basically. And that aspect, I mean, granted, I haven't finished Red Dead Redemption 2, but I think A Way Out, I mean, does it better.
Mm-hmm.
Who's opposed to putting this below A Way Out? No one?
Nope.
Cool.
Surprisingly,
next. Sweet. So next thing that we have on the list that I think is probably at discussion point is Spider-Man. Is this an alright point to talk about Spider-Man? Who here has played Spider-Man?
I've platinumed it.
Me too.
Wow.
Anyone else?
No.
Nope.
Okay.
Not yet.
Cool. So, Jonathan, do you believe that it should be high on this list?
Not since we've dropped God of War Redemption 2 solo.
So the reason why, now this is, I'm going to tell you guys the reason why Spider-Man is so high on my list and why I think it's the number one, at least for me, AAA game of the year, is the reason you are, this is kind of a typical arc of Peter Parker, is he is mentored by somebody who believes there is a better way. Very similar to Red Dead, but these people completely and utterly disappoint him, and he's constantly trying to find a way to be heroic despite all of his role models failing him. And the core of Spider-Man as who he is. This game introduced Miles Morales pretty much in the middle of the story. Now, I'm not going to spoil too much about who Miles Morales becomes. But I think it's pretty apparent if you know anything about Into the Spider-Verse or anything else in Spider-Man lore. But basically, this possibility for mentorship arises. And Peter has to decide, all right, I'm dealing with my own failed mentors, father figures. Nobody's mentored me in a way that, like, they've stuck around and continued to be good. And force me to recontextualize all the good that they did. Like, there's this home that they serve in, a homeless shelter. And he finds that he has to recontextualize how he sees that place in light of one of the characters who lets him down. And he wants to believe that there's still it's still good to love the poor. It's still good to serve. It's still like worth it. And in the midst of that, he starts mentoring this Miles Morales guy and believes, is just struggling. It seems to me, because this is where I'm at on a lot of things, that he's trying to believe in the better way still, despite no role models for himself. Like, all his role models seem to be gone. And what he does with there is, like, does he maintain faith in good? But yeah, so that's the core why Spider-Man resonated with me so much. And I'm curious as to how that sits with you guys and where that would lead you putting it on this list as of right now.
It reminds me a little bit of My Hero Academia.
Is that an anime?
Yes, it is an anime. I'm watching it.
Mild spoilers for that. I mean, it's however many seasons out, but yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Sorry.
Oh, I was going to say that, like, the way that Spider-Man is, like, the challenges that he faces in the game and how he responds to them remind me a bit of All Might in the anime, and how he, like, despite what people may say about heroes, what negative criticism they have, you keep going because deep down you know it's right, and like you have to continue the fight even if no one else around you is living up to that, or if like certain role models in your life are shattered, I guess. I really resonate with that that theme that you were describing. So yeah.
How about you, Madeline?
As far as your description, that super resonates with me, just as being like a young person trying to make their way in the world. People that you grew up looking up to, the more you age, the more you find out, the more you're on the internet, the more you realize that everybody is very broken, and it is so easy to decide that it's not worth it. The more you get burned, the harder it is to get up and do good in the morning, but there has to be something inside you that makes you believe that it's worth it. And that's like, for me, that's the entirety of my Christian walk. If it wasn't for God in my life, I would be a very, very different person. So personally, your description knocks it up to number one without me having played it.
Wow.
That's at least 2 or 3 for me.
Yeah.
Maybe 1. But I need to hear a case for Wandersong because I don't know anything about it. I've heard like, oh gosh, like.
So can I say one thing about Spider-Man before we move?
Yeah, I have something to say too.
Okay. So same issue that I have with Red Dead. Like, it feels like I'm guessing that most of this narrative kind of comes through narrative bits as opposed to like what you actually do in the world. That said, I think it's probably better than Red Dead Redemption in that regard, in the sense that like you are doing heroic things in the world. And Peter Parker is a guy who believes in doing the right thing, and then in the game he does the right thing. He saves
all the verbs in the game are you, serving, protecting, all those things.
Right. And we have this silly article that Chris Kasperg wrote that's really fun to read about how Spider-Man always saves his enemies. He doesn't kill them. I think those little touches.
Poignant. Like, it's poignant at the same time.
Yeah. Like it's silly, but I think it makes it. You're right. It makes a poignant point about he's a guy who loves his enemies, and so as far as like that have really well done and have a great story, but it's kind of like I think it's the best of those. It's like 2 or 3. Or 1.
So
sorry.
Go ahead, Steph.
Here's my one. So let me just ask you, like, how is the gameplay? Like, is this an excellently crafted game? Like, is it superior? Because to me, just going by the story, Spider-Man is like, the story is everywhere. Like, people know the story of Spider-Man. They know, like, it's in all kinds of different forms. So why?
Well, in this particular case, it's far more of an exploration of that relationship between the role model figures in Peter Parker's life, who are constantly saying like, we can make the world a better way, and here's our path to it, that are disappointing him. Like, that's really the central part of the story. And it's him as Peter Parker in trying to balance making the world a better place by constantly facing his own limitations and not being able to pay his rent, not being able to do.
But isn't that the Spider-Man story? Like, I mean, you get that out of comic books. You get that out of the movies. You get.
Steph is asking what the game specifically brings to the Spider universe.
Like, I would be asking the same question if there was a game about Batman that we were arguing for number 1, 2, or 3. I'd be like, Batman, it's everyone. I can pick up a comic book and probably get maybe a more enriching story of Spider-Man than this video game. But it would be the same story because...
Well, in that particular case, you're not actually walking in Spider-Man's shoes.
Yeah. I would say just the immersiveness of just playing a video game in itself I personally kind of elevates it more than just reading.
Yeah, I don't know. I mean,
comic book. And I mean, I love
this was my favorite comic book as a kid. Like, not favorite, but it was the one that I got really into. And I thought, and honestly, I just had really low expectations for it in the game. Like, I didn't really think that I was going to get into the story. I didn't really care. So the parts that resonated like I bawled through this game, and I did not I bawl through a lot of games. Like, I'm a crier when it comes to games. But this one made me cry more than any other, so I have particular feelings about it.
Yeah.
Because of something that I did not anticipate getting connected to in a way that, like, I've never bawled out a comic.
Oh, okay.
But, I mean, like, I'm not as well read in comics, so that's another thing.
Oh, I feel like maybe we're at the point where we need to go ahead and spoil it. What's this moment that made you cry?
Oh, no. I don't want to
Can I say...
I bawled at several points in the game, and I'm not going to spoil it because it's
okay.
I mean,
it's too damn sad. No. It's not just that. There's just certain people who either validate or just there's really, really good characters in this game who aren't Spider-Man, and their role and relationship to him is just really valuable and important. But mostly the part that I honestly cried at, which I can spoil because it was just, why am I crying so much, is just any time that Miles Morales was being developed as a character. And that's not something that I can necessarily quantify and explain to everybody, but there's something about seeing someone, like, one of the things for me is, like, I was trained as a Christian to really, like, mentor teens. Like most of my formation was about various forms of youth group leadership, youth center leadership, cell group growth, all sorts of things along those lines. And I don't know, I've mentored more kids than I can even think to name, and I didn't get to maintain all those relationships, and I had a lot of losses, a lot of disappointments. And I just wanted to believe that, like, what I'm providing for others in some way, shape, or form is positively shaping their lives in some way, shape, or form. Yeah. So for me for that part in Spider-Man was where I really was like, for them to turn towards that, even in the midst of his hurts and his disappointments, that was why I cried.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. I just want my 2 cents on
sure.
Coming into this Goaties conversation. Even though I loved Spider-Man, I was ready to just punt it down the list, especially after we immediately punted God of War to number 9. But after, hearing this and thinking, like, I was getting too much into thinking of, like, my personal game of the year, but this is Jesus's game of the year, and now I'm just you got me thinking about, like, all these story beats with the characters, and just I mean, I agree with you, just like this whole mentorship thing, and how this is Spider-Man like we always see Spider-Man. He's always the he's the friendly neighborhood Spider-Man. He's always the happy one. He doesn't brood, really. Like, he has to be at a really low point to brood. And
there's some of that in here, though. It gets pretty low.
Yeah, but, like, even when he does that, like, when he's around other people, he tries to be a positive force, and then talking about, like, the gameplay, like depending on what you decide to do or not do, like, if you decide to do these missions or anything, like, I always think of, like, J. Jonah Jameson always comes on the radio and rants about Spider-Man, Spider-Man, but it's like, even though he's constantly, like, being attacked by the, like, the media and the sometimes the police,
Enemies.
they always like, enemies, like they
sometimes
always
the
make these snarky comments like, oh, we could have handled this, Spider-Man, or, he's always
not
like,
met with a lot of encouragements along his way.
yeah, but he still remains the positive force, even though like throughout this game, like he goes through like terrible, heartbreaking stuff, he still tries to be better than how he feels. If and to me, like, I think that's just, as a Christian with Jesus is like, that's what it's like. I mean, I should strive to be like what we should like just to be better than who we are.
Yeah, absolutely.
So
cool. So are you
I wanted to
us putting it in leaving it in number 3 for right now?
Yes, I'm content keeping it number 3, which surprised me.
We're gonna get to talking about Celeste and Wandersong in 1 or 2 first and second place, and whether or not they should be higher or lower. But I think that Spider-Man should be number 3, and we'll get to those shortly. But I want to work our way through. We've got a lot of games to talk about, and I want to respect everyone's time, and I'm doing a terrible job of that. So we have So below Spider-Man in 4, 5, 6, 7, and 4, 5, 6, and 7, we have Where the Water Tastes Like Wine, Speed Dating for Ghosts, Return of the Obra Dinn, and Donut County. We haven't said anything about these games yet so far in here. Who would like to pick one of them and make a case for it?
I can do Speed Dating for Ghosts.
Do it.
I would say that this should be higher than Where the Water Tastes Like Wine, but probably not higher than My Child Lebensborn. Speed Dating for Ghosts, little short synopsis. You're a ghost attending a speed dating event, and you can date 9 different ghosts at the event. And while on the surface, like, okay, we're...
That's pretty silly.
Speed dating, and they're ghosts. But the more you talk to these ghosts, the more you understand them not as like a potential, I don't know what ghosts do for...
romance.
Yeah, but that's a good word. Thank you.
Potential
but like you don't learn about them as like a potential
date.
Conquest.
Conquest, yeah, that's
you they're people. They're 100% people. And the more you talk to them, the more you find out about what's important to them, about what they value, and you don't see them.
Some of them look really, really inhuman. But then you find they have some of the sweetest stories underneath their surface.
Yeah, can I share what you told me about Steph and Josh?
Uh-huh.
Oh, about the stuff in the game. Sorry.
Oh, yeah.
Okay, so
what did I tell you?
So back earlier this year when I recommended this to Josh, I was like, oh my gosh, didn't you love Steph's date? And to clarify, this is Steph the ghost.
Right.
And he's like, wasn't she the one that looked like a giant booger? She like ran out and got mad at me. And I was like, no, you have to go and finish Steph's date.
Mm-hmm.
You have to win her back.
For me, that was one of my top 2 dates for the whole thing.
Yeah.
Just because it's so much about.
She does look like she just looks like a big mess, and you don't even know what the heck she is.
Mm-hmm.
And
it really is.
You find out that she has literally one of the best. It's
so like
hard to
self-actualization is really what all of these are about.
Mm-hmm.
If you play the game, each of the ghosts are different spirits. Like one of them is the spirit of denial, one of the spirit of vengeance.
Mm-hmm.
All different spirits, and it really is about them not only embodying that spirit, but also taking a step and growing as a human being, even though they are post-human.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
It really...
and trying to really get to the heart of what's underneath them. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Go ahead, Steph.
Yeah. No, I was just thinking you really see them kind of develop because, you go through the 2 rounds of the speed dating and you start seeing them open up. And then, you go on the date and you can see a little bit of almost like character development as they kind of like, discover themselves or get some self-realization and, or you just learn more about them as a person or learn more about yourself as a player. Just through your interactions. Like I just played it today. I went through it and loved it. And
Who did you date?
I went through all of them.
Oh wow! Oh wow!
Who were your first 3 dates then?
The first 3 dates. Well, no, I went through them systematically. So it was it was all the 3 dates in the. But anyways, it was.
Tell us about your favorite. Ready, set, go.
Honestly, it was. It was my favorite was probably I agree with you guys with Stephanie. But then I also actually my first date I actually kind of enjoyed was the I can't think of his name. It was the jock with the football in his head.
Yeah.
Riley?
Yeah, he was
Riley.
my first date, and I actually he was kind of my top 3 probably, because he was just so interesting. Like, you could see some he was the one I saw character development in. Because
he was the one I didn't want to date him because jocks, ew, whatever.
Yeah,
dumb.
I dated him last.
Yeah.
But you find that he has like a real sweetheart underneath things that like you just had to peel back some layers to be able to get at.
Yeah.
And you're like, oh, he's so sweet. I like him.
And
but
then,
it takes a little bit to get there.
Yeah. And then some of them it wasn't even all about dating. Sometimes it was just about going, like there were a couple of like kind of like there was this one lady that took
Let's
you
just
to,
go haunt something.
Yeah. They go and haunt something, or took you to the nursing home where her husband was. Yeah. And it turns out
Hattie, she was my favorite.
Yeah. Yeah. She was a super sweet, and anyways, I'll stop blabbering.
No, it's good.
This isn't game chat. I have to keep reminding myself this isn't game chat.
So, Steph, how about I'm going to pick on you.
Sure.
Would you put speed dating for ghosts higher or lower than Where the Water Tastes Like Wine?
I would put it a spot above Where the Water Tastes Like Wine.
Okay. So Where the Water Tastes Like Wine.
Yes.
Are we?
Hello?
Before we get to where, Steph, this is your game. This is one that you love. This is one that I want to get into a knife fight with you about, but I'm not going to. I'm going to let you make your case, and I want you to decide where you think it should be on the list.
Okay, sure. Where the Water Tastes Like Wine. I played it for Game Chat, and it was probably one of my favorites of the year. Like, I didn't even realize it was released this year until I think after the fact. But it's a lovely adventure. Like, I'm trying to think. It's been a few months since I played it. But
I don't even know what you are. You're either an 80-foot skeleton or
right. Well, I mean,
a concept.
What you are isn't really important. Like, you're trekking across the country, and you have to go to to the different cities. There are little way stations, which are like campsites. As you go these different campsites, you meet different wayfarers. Who are just kind of journeying around as well. And you meet them at like one campsite, then you meet them at the other. But anyways, the people that you meet in this game at the campsites, they are intriguing and just very fascinating. And I should have played this before I did this.
Don't worry about it.
But they weave very interesting stories that are both very telling of like culturally, and both telling of
And this is set during the Depression, right?
Yes. And then like you go to different towns. It's a game all about the weaving of stories, a tapestry of stories. Because as you go to different cities, you talk to people and you get different stories. And the whole point of the game is to collect these stories so that you have things to tell around the campfire, so that you have things to talk about. And so it is a game about storytelling. And about
so the one thing that I don't know that I've heard yet is why Jesus would love this.
I think, in my opinion, just for me, like I think Jesus would love this because it's the argument I have would be that it's about people, that it's about listening to people and caring about people, no matter what they look like or the color of their skin or where they come from, caring about them when they don't look like someone you would normally care about. And just really listening to their stories, and I think that's a very genius
really
thing
listening to their stories.
Right.
That's a great point.
Yeah, and it's so it's just really interesting. It's just about storytelling.
How do you feel about it being in the number 5 position right now? Would you put it higher or lower than something else on the list?
I would put it lower.
I would put it. I mean, I would.
We haven't gotten to Return of the Obra Dinn or Donut County, which
I
are
would
lower.
I would still say. I mean, I would say about maybe like 7.
So we're gonna keep it as a contrast.
Sure.
Would you say that based on what you've played of it, that you put it higher or lower than My Child Leon?
I mean, I would put it.
I know I'm causing you bodily harm right now.
You're causing me You're causing me bodily harm. I would say just because of what the games cover, I would put it maybe a spot below Logansporn.
Okay, and that's what Madeline was saying too, right?
Yeah.
All right, cool. Next, we have The Return of the Obra Dinn. Who here has played that besides me?
Unfortunately, not.
I've never heard of it.
Yeah,
Okay,
that's
I'll find it.
I loaded it up and played just a few minutes of it, but I don't feel like it's
Not good enough,
it's
Drew.
incredibly.
I'm a failure.
It's the hardest game it's the hardest story game that I've ever played.
Ooh,
Because it's
that's intriguing.
entirely about you figuring out the story of all the people who died on the ship, the Oberdin, or figuring out what their fate is, because it's not promised that they're all dead, but there's a lot of bones. So you have a little pocket watch, you pop it open and hold it over a corpse, and that shows you the exact moment this person died, and a little bit of the things that they were hearing, but just that key moment. Now, you can walk around, see the other faces in that scene, figure out how things happened, but how they died, that's on you to figure out. And you enter it all into the journal, into the ledger as an insurance adjuster of sorts. So you are just trying to. The reason why I think that Jesus would love this is because it's all about finding and telling honestly, judging a person's fate, and realizing how incredibly frequently your assumptions are wrong.
Yeah.
So more often than not, you'll find someone on the ship that you think that this is this person and this is how they died. And then you find just one little teensy tiny clue, like the knife wasn't quite where you thought it was, or the blood wasn't, the blood stains on the floor wasn't exactly theirs. And then you have to completely change your entire link of narrative that you were unfolding. Now, the thing that I think that Jesus loves, the thing that I've been processing about Jesus is that the scriptures say he is the judge of the living and the dead. And the fact that he judges rightly, that's a lot to put on anybody. But that's, for lack of a better term, a game that he's familiar with. So that's why I think that it should be on the list. I don't know exactly where I would put it. I mean, personally, I think it maybe should be above Speed Dating for Ghosts, but I wouldn't put it above Spider-Man. And I'm just curious how my case resonates with you guys and what you think should be done with it.
I'm going to preface this with this is absolutely a game that is on my list and I'm chomping at the bit to play. But
I thought that I was going to play it alongside you. And
I'm really sorry. I'm really sorry. I'm curious to how, if you can without spoiling anything, how your sleuthing, does that affect anything that is like current time in the game, or is it only you finding out stuff that happened previously for the sake of finding out stuff that happened previously?
If you find your job as an insurance claims adjuster is to make an accurate account for 60 people who died on this ship.
Okay. So
and you can't leave until that happens, but you're constantly jumping into the moments of death for so many different people. You do get a little disoriented, but ultimately it's about you in the present and so that you can leave the ship and say things are judged rightly.
Okay. So, but your main goal is to do as accurately as possible
is to literally
for your company at least?
Yeah.
Okay. But not like to seek justice for any of the deaths. It's basically to make sure that debts are paid, but not necessarily that
I don't know
justice is
about,
done.
I don't know about exactly. It's just to make sure that nothing in the game is validated until you have like 2 or 3 witnesses. So like you have to have a confirmation on a case for it to be considered solved.
Okay.
So it's kind of just about finding the truth is ultimately what you're after.
Okay.
I voted for it because even though I haven't played it, well, I mean, like, barely. I read your description of why you nominated it, Josh.
Yeah,
and I thought that was really compelling. Like, games get into that territory of like how hard it is to judge
truth,
to judge the merit of someone's life or whatever. Like,
yeah,
like that's a burden too big for any of us to bear, and to sort of like.
Yeah. I'm intimidated by the game. I'm like, I was trying to make further in it, and I wasn't. If
we could acknowledge how, like, as a culture or whatever, as a society, if we were acknowledging how difficult that is, like,
yeah,
how much would that help us? You know,
yeah, absolutely.
I find that a very. It struck me as a very Jesus-like. Like it's a hard message to digest.
Yeah,
an important one that's very much in line with Jesus's values.
Are you all right with putting it under Spider-Man?
I am, but I hear from others.
I think selfishly, as a living human being currently, I would hope that we could put justice or something like dealing with the living before dealing with the dead. And so I kind of I kind of feel like
for both speed dating for Ghost.
I 100% agree. But I feel like some of the rest of these, I'm okay with putting it above.
We're going to figure out where the next few of these are going to go too. So
okay.
These aren't final.
In a weird way, it feels like speed dating for Ghosts and Return of the Obra Dinn are doing similar things.
They really are.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, especially considering they're both
two sides of the same coin.
Yeah, and also sort of challenging you to see that people are far more complex than we initially deemed them.
Yeah, I wasn't sure about the game since I never heard anything about it. I thought it'd be lower, but I actually like it where it is right now, having heard about it.
Drew, I want you to talk about Donut County, and then I think that My Child Lebensborn is going to compete with some of the other ones on here.
Mm-hmm.
Sure. So Donut County is a game about being a hole in the ground where you suck up the homes of these cute little...
Wait, aren't you a raccoon?
Yeah.
You are a raccoon?
Well, you're controlling the hole.
You're a raccoon who just opened up a donut shop, and it's a metaphor for...
gentrification.
Yeah, real donut shops in LA that came in and kind of drove out a lot of the mom and pop donut shops. And so, yeah, you're this raccoon that starts this donut shop, but in reality, when people order donuts, he sends this hole out to suck up their homes.
Their belongings, yeah.
And so the best part of the game really is after you suck everything up into the hole, which feels really good and satisfying because it's like this with Ben Esposito on the Humans of Gaming podcast. So you should go check out that episode if you're interested. But like cleaning up can feel really good. You know, like say your kitchen's really messy and then you get it spotless. Like there's process may not be fun all the time, but it's just this really satisfying feeling when you're done. That game nails that feeling of like how great it is to clean up. But then you get to see the cost of that when you go down into the hole and see how all these people, these creatures in the game have been affected by being displaced. And so although it's really funny, it's really cute, it's really well written. Like there's a lot of just reading the descriptions of all the items that you suck up into your hole. But the best thing about it is that I do think it's a poignant metaphor, if we're willing to dig in a little deeper, for what often happens in a lot of communities when big businesses move in. Like I lived in a rural part of Alabama for 5 years and talked to a lot of people about how different their lives were. This is not like I'm not like trying to slam Walmart or something, but got to talk. Yeah, I mean, part of me wants to, but lives are because Walmart moved in to that area. Yeah, and it really had a profound impact on their livelihood, on their jobs, their family's security, and those kind of things. And I think it's just something that we don't think about a lot, and that we ought to care about how these economic forces that are all around us are impacting real lives. So
yeah, Jesus loves.
I think it struck me that way just because of those experiences, But yeah,
I think it's really, really good, but it's unfortunately we have to play a cruel game of how does it compare to all the other games that we've talked about so far.
I actually, honestly, don't think it should be in our game.
Where the Water Tastes Like Wine also looks at very closely looks at the poor. Through a lens of magical realism.
And even through that, well, I think that Donut County and Where the Water Tastes Like Wine are very similar in spirit and what they want to talk to.
I played Donut County today. Started it and beat it.
Nice. You
played a lot of games today.
I did.
Yeah. I'm very proud of you, Steph.
Thank you. If you wouldn't have said that, Drew, like I would have never gotten that from that game.
Yeah. I get that.
I think that's kind of, I mean,
It's something that you unearth when you really think about it.
Because I was looking at it, on the list, and I haven't played it yet, but I've been wanting to play it, and I was like, even before playing it, I was questioning its place, and then I played it, and I thought, oh, well, maybe I'll find out something that will change my mind, and I didn't. I mean, I loved the game. It was fun.
I feel like you're slamming my argument here.
I thought it was.
I'm so glad someone needs to slam someone's argument.
I thought it was fun, and it was very satisfying, sucking up things into holes, like popping pimples.
Yes.
But and the story, of them, of what happens after you suck things into the holes, and that whole, pun intended, underground story, is very interesting, and I wasn't expecting it, but never, and it was slightly mentioned, I see where it was kind of mentioned in there of oh, well, you can't, all the raccoons came in and bought all the
here's my pushback. Can I push back a little bit?
Yep, go ahead.
On what you're saying?
Go ahead.
Permission. I'm going to push back. So I guess maybe I'm wrong. That's possible, because people don't see it initially doesn't mean, you know what I mean? Just because you may have missed the metaphor, not a profound.
Yeah, that doesn't mean that
metaphor.
It's not there at all. But it's just a matter of would Jesus prefer it? I don't know.
Right.
It's definitely really hard.
That's the issue, right? For me, is does it? Because I do think it's a profound.
Well, Drew, this is what we're gonna do. We're gonna get brutal.
And I'll say one more thing, just because this is my last.
Okay, go for it.
Your last stop.
Yeah, I want to ask, did you feel guilty after you went down into the hole? Did it make you feel a sense of loss for what you had just enjoyed doing?
Steph?
I felt that before I went down the hole.
Okay. You felt bad sucking their homes up regardless.
Right. No, I did.
Yeah,
I did. I felt bad sucking up the geese and, and the houses and, in a way that, I guess that's an interesting point in a way that because I kind of compare it to Katamari, because that's what I love.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But in Katamari, I never felt remorse or I never felt bad for rolling up things into a huge ball because I was having too much fun. Yeah. This, I was still having fun, but I did feel, but it was even before I even, before it even started.
Because they shut their doors when they see the hole coming and
they get scared. Yeah.
Yeah. Kind of run away.
Is that a reason for me to want it on the list? I'm not sure.
I guess that's my one last argument, is that I feel like this game is really accessible.
True.
It's really
this is one of my son's favorite games of the year, because he actually, on his own, as a 2-year-old, could finish the first 3 levels.
Oh, that's great. So it's really easy to pick up and play and enjoy and have a good time with, and at the same time, it is driving this emotion. That's my favorite thing about games, a strong emotion, and it's. I described it to Ben Esposito as almost like Hotline Miami. And
it's comparable in the same spirit of when you clear a room and there's all the dead bodies everywhere. You have to look at them when you leave.
Right, and you have to walk through these dead bodies of people you just killed. Well, it sort of forces you to be man, wasn't that? It's every time it's wasn't that fun to suck up all these
until that point
homes, and then you're oh my god, yeah, it was super fun, but it's also kind of horrific and terrifying.
So where would you put it on the list?
So after making my final case, my question is probably, does where the water tastes like wine do that better?
It is definitely not more accessible. I know Josh did not like it because of how boring it was walking in between all of the stories. And if you it's not necessarily a fun game. There's some fun moments in it, but where the water
I didn't have very strong emotional responses to the experience as a whole. If it made me bored and I was supposed to be bored, I'd be cool with that. That's if it's no, you should really feel bored right now because that's something that we're trying to communicate in this unique way. Mm-hmm. And where the water tastes like wine, I like that I could whistle. As far as if you whistle and where the water tastes like wine, you walk a little bit faster, and that's the only part that I liked about it.
So then my question would be then for the conclusion of Donut County. In the conclusion, are you able to fix what you messed up? Are you able to resolve any of that? Because in Where the Water Tastes Like Wine, the entire reason you're going around and collecting these stories is because the devil owns your soul, and the thought is that you could maybe collect enough stories to get out of this deal with the devil, and it is an unachievable achievement. You can never find the place where the water tastes like wine. Spoilers. You can't, because that's how the deck is stacked. So in Donut County, can you fix what you've done?
Yes, sort of. Yes.
Yeah, sort of.
Does your character learn anything?
Yeah,
definitely. I think learned something.
I think he's less of a raccoon a-hole.
Yeah.
I hope he's still a raccoon, but maybe less of an a-hole.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah, I think that's true.
So
what do you think, Steph, on that point?
All I can say is I had a more emotional response, more enthusiastic response to Where the Water Tastes Like Wine than I did Donut County. I had fun playing Donut County, but I got more out of the experience of playing Where the Water Tastes Like Wine.
I just put Donut County under Where the Water Tastes Like Wine. Is that agreeable to y'all?
I'm fine.
I'm okay with that.
It bothers me a little bit.
I think some of the rest of these will jump up and mess up.
Okay, sweet. So, we have, I think, a lot of these sussed out, and I want to make a little bit more of a case for Captain Spirit, but that's not as important right now, as we have to wrap this up, and we have the number 1 and number 2 game on this list at the moment untalked about. Mm-hmm. So, who here has played Celeste?
I did.
I have.
I've played an hour and a half to 2 hours of it.
Okay. Joey, have you played it?
No.
And I'm
Jonathan?
Allergic to platformers, so
yeah, that's okay. This is a very brutal one where you're challenged more than most platformers.
Mm-hmm.
And Jonathan, how did you complete it?
I have not completed it, but I think I'm on the second to last level.
Okay, cool. And Drew, did you finish it?
Yeah, I did.
Okay. You're best qualified to make a case for it. I had unreasonably high expectations for this game, and I was just because my expectations were insane. And so I'm tainted.
That's interesting. Okay. Well, I'll read Stephen Miller's description because I think it's really helpful. He said, "The mountain lays bare the fears that control anyone who sets foot on it by literally manifesting those fears in a tangible way." Madeline, not who's on this podcast, but the main character, Madeline.
Madeline.
We have a Steph in the game, and we have Madeline in the game.
Yeah.
Is it Madeline?
I heard a video reviewer say Madeline. So
okay.
No, it could go either way.
Okay.
I've talked to the devs. They've called her Madeline.
Okay, then go what they said.
Okay. Madeline, the main character, has her depression and anxiety revealed and must reckon with it to survive the climb. It's all there, surviving an anxiety attack through breathing exercises, taking or not taking meds, leaning on friends, mentors, and learning to talk to yourself in constructive ways. Quite frankly, this game toes the line of appropriate use of both medical needs and spiritual care and counseling better than 90% of the Christian books I've read about it. So I thought that was like a really well kind of why I love it.
Yeah.
And I think it's a really if you can get through it.
Yeah.
And for the record, they give you some tools to get through it. If you find the platforming too hard, you can slow it down. It's actually there's some pretty forgiving mechanics in there.
Yeah.
But there's a real sense, if you do make it through, there's a real sense of accomplishment that comes from, and getting to the top of that mountain and having this kind of breakthrough moment with this character that a lot by the end. And felt like I saw really well through the mechanics of the game too. Yeah. Like those mental struggles are illustrated. I don't want to ruin it for those that might play it, but they're literally illustrated in mechanics. It's sort of the opposite of some of these Ludo narrative dissonant games where the story doesn't match what you're actually doing in the game. And this one, I mean, it's just constantly.
I'm going to have to ask that you spoil some of the parts that resonated with you because, all right, to me, this felt like you guys all are familiar with Chick tracts.
Yes.
They're all trying to convey a spiritual reality of Jesus through really grossly drawn caricatures of people.
Yeah.
And Chick tracks they don't work for, like they're very heavy-handed and very, very super fundamental Christian in a lot of their content. But the part that I don't like about Chick tracks, and the reason why I think that they don't work, is because of the way that things are drawn. Oh. And in Celeste, something really disconnected me from, there's a character in a game, I don't know if I should say her name, but she feels like a cartoon character to me. This manifestation of Madeline's,
her
enemy. And for whatever reason, it didn't work for me. It felt like a cartoon character.
Did you play it all the way through?
Yeah.
I can see that, I guess, but
I feel like that's more of like a personal quibble than like a substantial one. I don't know. That's okay. But
hey, here.
to me, Chick tracks don't work because it's basically like, how can I scare the hell out of you, literally?
Sure. Well,
as opposed to like,
they're so impersonal and lazy. And they remove the human element.
This is not a chick.
Which we're not talking about.
It's a really unfair comparison, and I realize that I'm doing intellectual damage by comparing it to something so bad. But the concept of maybe it's more like maybe it's more like a Hanna-Barbera Bible movie, if you remember those in like the 70s and 80s, like.
Well, here's what. No, I think that's unfair.
So it's a cheap caricature, maybe.
Yeah.
Of like what they're trying to aim for. Is that what you're trying to say?
Kinda, yeah. Like it just doesn't feel like, I don't know. I want Drew to explain to me in the game, like, that's my terrible case. I know it's bad, but I want Drew to draw for me an illustration that resonated with him from within the game. And I know this could get into serious spoiler territory, but I want to feel what you feel in the game because I just don't feel it.
I mean, the best one is a pretty big spoiler, I guess.
I'll just take the headphones off until you're done.
I mean, okay, skip ahead.
But if we all take our headphones off?
Skip ahead 2 minutes.
You can just type.
Yeah.
Skip ahead 2 minutes if you don't want to hear this. So that enemy is another part of Madeline. It's part of herself. And the best part of the game, you actually have to work together with that enemy mechanically to get through the last couple levels. And so it's this moment of sort of accepting that this is her anxiety, the things that she doesn't like about herself, her failures are part of who she is, and she learns to accept it. And that's really like it struck me.
Mm-hmm. I only played for an hour and a half to 2 hours, and I was already won over by it just because of how it showed how it portrayed her personal struggle.
Yeah. I think it's a very of those things like affirming, not worm, that's the wrong word, like affirming of people who deal with anxiety.
Mm-hmm.
And that's part of the thing. Like I deal with anxieties, but I don't feel like I don't deal with them the way that Madeline does, or feel connected to her in the way that she does in any way. And when I talked to Steven about this, you read his great case on it. We had a discussion group while we were all playing through the game. And I don't know if I wasn't listening well enough to people. It's probable. But his point is that I am more of a Theo, and while he identifies more as Madeline in the game.
Yeah, I can see
and
that.
Theo is this other character that you come across in the game who's just kind of like, I don't even know how to describe him because I have a hard time seeing myself in characters in games. But how would you describe him, Steph?
I mean, I only came across him once, but he seemed very. I mean, from what I can remember, wasn't he kind of like optimistic, kind of like
he's the half glass full guy.
Like,
yeah, he's almost like he's the funny guy compared to Madeline's straight man, almost. But I mean, in the level I just beat the other night because it's been taking me a while to get back to this game because I stopped playing it for a while. But it's like he's optimistic, whereas Madeline's pessimistic, and like so he he jokes around with her, and like she's kind of uncomfortable with it at first, but like he kind of builds her up. But then there's a part in the game where where it's just like Madeline's having a major anxiety attack, and he helps her through it
to focus
and help her to focus. And just the fact that he was like, hey, he admits, he's like, hey, I am struggling too, but you know, we gotta get through this. Like he helps her, and like he's like, I'm dealing with my own things. Like he's like, I'm on this mountain for my own reasons, you know, not just here to take selfies. You know, it's and so I mean, I'm looking forward to finishing this game. But yeah, I'm kind of like, I feel like I'm kind of in the middle where I can see how it resonates with a bunch of people, and it does resonate with me, but not as much as other people. Like, I
feel like what we need to do is hear about Wonder Song to feel like we know
know how to place it. Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. Who here really, really, really loved Wonder Song?
Yes.
Yes.
You too, right?
Anyone else play it?
Josh?
Yeah, it's I would want to get into a
I played
I'd say knife fight, but probably more like a singing fight over this one.
I played the first couple levels, and that's as far as I've gotten.
Okay, yeah, it's so in terms of progression and in terms of like pulling you through and motivation, a lot of the game depends on your own motivation.
Mm-hmm.
So it's not like, I don't know, like God of War that's trying to poo with the mechanics and the combat. This one's one where you the will to go on is the theme in a lot of ways. The world is dying, the world is doomed, and you're told by an angel of sorts that there is no hope. Goodbye. And you're left with, what do I do with that? And you're given very early on, there's problems, there's monsters, the world is falling apart, and so you are given very early on an option to pick up a sword, but you can't use a sword because you're just a weak little nerdy bard. And your only option, of course, is to use what you were given, which is your voice. And so you have to solve a myriad of insanely difficult problems with singing. By pressing on the right stick to sing in a particular direction, and the mechanics of what that does in the right context is more times than anybody can count. But the thing that stood with me through the entirety of the game is how often you're beaten down and discouraged and disappointed. And every time, but you're told that there might be some way to save the world. We don't know if it's really going to work. It probably won't. It's not going to hurt anybody if you try. And this loss of hope, this disappointment, this what if everything that I've been told is a lie and I don't know if it's even worth getting up in the morning. But I'm going to keep singing. I'm going to keep loving. I'm going to keep, when everyone else wants to use violence, there's this point very early on where you've come across a troll, and the troll is really, really upset. And he's doing violence, and your not best friend, but your new friend who just so happens to be a witch is like, I'm just gonna smack him with some witch power, and she's like, let's fight, and he says, no, let's sing.
Yep.
and it turns into a beautiful actual boss battle where you don't have health, but you have to find a way to overcome your enemies by patiently, lovingly singing. And this to me personally, to be completely honest with you guys, like I've been on like I've been rethinking a lot of things spiritually, and like what have I really been believing? What's true is Jesus and everything he says, is his kingdom, is what if it all is just a dream? And if there's any message in this game, it's that it's still worth singing.
Yeah.
It's still worth getting up. It's still worth loving your enemies. It's still worth trying to build a better world and trying to love people with everything that you've got.
Yep.
And that's the spirit of the game in a nutshell for me. That's why I can't I of course bawled 3 parts of the game, but
Yep.
I can't think of any other game that I play that's had that effect.
Yeah. It has so much optimism in it. Like, this, it was funny because, like, I played it, but then I watched a playthrough of it after that, for certain reasons. And, like, that's what the people that were doing, you know, the Let's Play series, they were like, this guy is just so optimistic. Like, you know, he just keeps going. He just keeps smiling. He just keeps singing no matter what, you know, life throws at him. He is just, and But while saying that, it's not a fake optimism, and
it's not a Pollyanna situation.
The game does address moments where he's feeling down. Like one of my favorite parts.
Extreme life hurts.
Yeah, one of my favorite parts is there's a part in the game where, after being, beat down and which is another theme, which is really cool, is that, it's a whole game about, what to do when you're not the hero. And you're
repeatedly told by the angel and other spirits that you come across, you're not the hero.
Yeah.
And even when you get to like the beat the bosses and beat the level, you can't win. You're left empty-handed almost every time.
Well, and then the hero starts knocking you down at every turn as well.
Yeah.
And it's extra reinforced by the game because you as the bardlet, you don't earn achievements. Every achievement earned in this game is earned by the hero.
Yeah.
Yep. And so at one point...
that's actually his name, the hero?
Yes.
Her name.
Yes. Mm-hmm.
How dare you, Drew, automatically think that's a guy. Oh my goodness.
I know. You're right.
And like at that one part when you, like in one section in the middle, you get to play as the hero, and I'm like, oh my gosh, I'm earning all these achievements.
Yeah. Constantly.
I feel like such a...
Yep.
I feel like such a douchebag.
Yeah.
Like, because this is the thing that every game rewards, and this game is very specifically standing against some of that.
Mm-hmm.
I like that a lot. Sounds like number one to me, honestly.
But also, going for, where as I said, one of my favorite parts is when he's beat down and he's told, he's not the hero. And I think, he runs into the hero and she is just like, just stopping him every turn. It shows this really interesting, like, moment where he goes back to his hometown and he's depressed. And
he gets in bed and doesn't want to get out of bed.
He gets in bed, doesn't want to get out of bed. You go around and, like, his singing is, like, just a whisper.
Oh, it's so sad.
It's not up to where it was.
The color from this extremely colorful game is gone.
And then there was this, and, like, he eventually gets it back. And there's a really interesting backstory that happens along as he's doing this. You find out more about, like, parents, blah, blah, blah. But there's this really beautiful moment between him and Miriam, which is his witch friend.
She's the one who's been with him.
Yeah.
She sings with him through the entire journey.
Yeah, but they. And
there's this part in the club where she's like, "Why do you keep singing? Why do you keep dancing?"
Yep.
And he says, "I get discouraged too." It's actually in the game's trailer. So if you're listening and you haven't seen the game's launch trailer, it's probably like it's one of the best trailers I've seen this year. I've even told the team as somebody who makes trailers for a living, it's I couldn't have done it any better.
It covers, and amongst the myriad of characters that you come across in the game, it covers so many different, depression, anxiety, not feeling good enough, not feeling worthwhile, not feeling like that you're on the right path. It covers all of these important issues. That's
the thing that the game's constantly trying to tell you is that you're not on the right path.
Yeah.
Of course, we know that it's a game that's been designed that is kind of a role-playing game of sorts. But everything that should be a reward and a sign that you're on the right path is there to remind you you're not.
Yep.
Okay. I feel like I've heard, I think y'all should stop gushing about it. No, I'm kidding. But I do feel like, to me, that's a clear number one. So
it sounds like a one to me, too.
So
strong argument
what do you think,
against.
Jonathan?
I don't have any arguments against it.
The only
it sounds...
The only reason I would put this above Celeste is focused on reconciling with the self, whereas both, all of the rest of the top 5 are focused on others.
Yeah.
And so I think that should probably have some factor in how we rate these.
Because Wonder Song has you saving the world as well.
Mm-hmm.
As well as getting over yourself.
Yep.
Wander Song, like in terms of story, sounds generally similar. In terms of like keeping the good in the world through your own actions, even when everything else around you is crumbling. But I feel like it sounds like Wander Song mechanically reinforces that really well.
Mm-hmm.
Yes.
So definitely above Spider-Man, I'd say. Even though Spider-Man also sounds amazing, but like I think Wander Song is that sounds like a number one to me.
Yeah, and I think obviously I haven't played Wonder Song and I have played Celeste and I really, really like Celeste. But I would say Wonder Song does both those things. It has this person who deals with and self-doubt and maybe some anxiety and that kind of stuff, but ends up saving other people and loving people despite their lack of like faith in him. So it does what Celeste does and kind of what Spider-Man does in a way. So I think I still like it at number 1.
Yep.
Cool. So I think that we have our top 2 or 3 for sure. 1, 2. We definitely agree on Wonder Song, definitely on Celeste. My question is, should My Child Lebensborn be higher than a 6? Because right now we have Wonder Song, Celeste, Spider-Man, Return to the Oberdin, Speed Dating for Ghosts, and then My Child Lebensborn. But the things that we're validating in Return to the Oberdin and Speed Dating for Ghosts, which is really listening to people, really like getting to the true side of their story, My Child Lebensborn does in a way that you're really intrinsically connected to that particular character. So I want to lean on Steph and Madeline since they've played through the game more than I have at least. Where would you put My Child Lebensborn, and how would you make it more stronger case for it?
So I would say because My Child Lebensborn requires you to be responsible for another person. I know like you're responsible for people in Return of the Oberdin, but because you're responsible for a child that is 100%
that's alive,
that's 100% innocent in this situation, I would argue that it needs to be above both of Return to the Oberdin and Speed Dating for Ghosts.
I've definitely had a better. I definitely, in what I played, which is 4 hours of My Child Lebensborn, definitely had more of an emotional, stronger reaction to that than I did Speed Dating for Ghosts. So I would agree with Madeline.
Okay, cool. So I'm putting that presently above Return to the Oberdin, but below Spider-Man. Should it be higher?
No.
I would... No, not higher than Spider-Man, but I would...
Okay.
I have an argument for something.
So this brings up one other question that I have on our list, because we're at the point where let's just be frank about it. A Way Out, Red Dead Redemption, Minute, Subnautica, Dead Cells, Octopath, and Smoke and Sacrifice are not making our list. We're talking about the top 10 here. And so the question is, since The Awesome Adventures of Captain Spirit deal also with this living care of a living person, really hearing their story, really actively caring for them, would you put that higher on the list for The Awesome Adventures of Captain Spirit?
I would put above Donut County.
Well, here's my thing with I'm not sure. Like, I'm gonna make it really quick because I know it's late.
Go for it, Drew.
Like, it shouldn't be on the list because we already have that theme covered in this list pretty heavily, and I think covered better. It sounds like by My Child Lebensborn, if I'm saying that right.
Do you have a suggestion for what should replace it then from one of those below?
Well,
I would suggest The Way Out.
Way Out, yes. I was going to say Way Out should be on the list.
We talked a lot about A Way Out. We talked a lot about A Way Out.
Yeah.
Compared to a lot
of it this way, because this is how I feel, and I'm trying not to let my feelings shape things too much. But The Awesome Adventures of Captain Spirit, for me, at least where I'm at in the game, like I played through Captain Spirit 2-3 times. It's the game that I share with people when they come over to my house this year, besides Wander Song. I would not say that I could see Jesus playing God of War more than The Awesome Adventures of Captain Spirit.
I would agree with that.
Yeah, I didn't. Oh, I see what you're saying. Yeah.
God of War is currently number 9, and The Awesome Adventures of Captain Spirit to me are definitely above that. I would put it above Donut County, but I'm not going to.
But again, my thing is that I feel like it's a very similar argument as My Child Lebensborn.
Let me flip it on you then. The other thing that Captain Spirit does, is getting into spoiler territory, but it's not because it's Life is Strange. Life is Strange as a series is about dealing with the grief of a parent, of loss, of death. And the thing that resonates with me to an extreme and heartfelt sense is this. It's something that's close to Jesus, is that feeling of being orphaned.
Yep.
The sense of losing your parents. And in Captain Spirit, we will spoil that you are dealing with a mostly neglectful alcoholic father. And so most of Captain Spirit is you escaping into this child's imagination as he tries to reconcile his existence without his mother and mostly without his father. And so this feeling of being orphaned, this desire to go into another place, wanting to get away, this is where I feel like Jesus' heart really, really is.
Can I?
Yes. Oh yeah, go for it.
Can I spoil it even further? In the previous seasons of Life is Strange, you've played as someone who has some agency in their situation, whether you had time powers or whether you were just a smart mouth. You are neither of those things in the Awesome Adventures of Captain Spirit. You are a helpless child. And that place
is... You have powers that only exist in your imagination that don't seem to really change anything other than what's happening inside of your imagination.
Yep.
Yeah, it's like, I would say with God of War that there are equally good themes, like with its story. Like Atreus, what's interesting is that he's innocent as a kid. He likes to see the good in people and help others, even when he doesn't expect anything in return. And Kratos is hardened to that, like over the years. And
lose your heart to it, boy.
That was pretty good, actually. But what's interesting is that it's a slight spoiler, sort of vague, but over the course of the story, Atreus is affected negatively by Kratos' like hardened state, and in turn, Kratos sees that and is affected by Atreus' innocence, and he allows that to impact him and reel Atreus back into like that innocent, good outlook on the world. But I will say to your credit, though, that I think in Captain Spirit, it's more grounded and realistic. Obviously, as a setting and everything. So
Sufjan Stevens makes sure that happens. It feels like you found a Sufjan Stevens album inside of your mom's things and just put it on and listened to it on loop.
It's like I can see that being a game that Jesus would play instead of God of War, even though God of War has great things going for it. So in a way, as much as it pains me to say it,
here's the question though. Let's throw a real big wrench in this. Is Captain Spirit like a standalone game?
It's actually a demo.
But it is like 3 hours long.
Yep.
I'd say it stands on its own, too.
It does.
Yeah.
Well, stands on its own is different than saying, is this a demo?
It's not a demo.
It's not a demo.
Well, the thing is, the language of the game when you go onto the store, if you want to find it on the PlayStation Store, it says it's a demo. You find, but when you get the game, it identifies itself not as Life is Strange, but it identifies it as purely its own, The Awesome Adventures of Captain Spirit. So it's confusing. But as you play it, as it exists as a piece of software, as if you were to compare it to, say, Gone Home, it's very comparable.
Yeah.
Well, also, like Josh, you played the first episode of season 2. Do you feel like that this stands?
It's completely unrelated.
Yeah, stands alone.
I heard. I talked to Steph about it because I didn't see any overlap at all. I didn't realize that there was any. And this is after playing through The Awesome Adventures of Captain Spirit. Twice. So like,
you needed help at the end.
I needed help.
That's all right.
Okay. Well, I trust y'all on that.
If we're talking about playtime, how long is Donut County?
Well, no. I don't want to talk about. I don't want to talk about playtime. I merely am pointing out that
is it a standalone? Is it its own game? Is essentially
that we rolled out?
Can we call it?
We rolled out other games for not being exactly this year. Or
it's like I played Florence, and it was like an hour and a half,
45 minutes. Yeah.
Well, 25 minutes. Gee whiz.
45.
Okay.
Yeah. I don't care about the length of things.
Length doesn't matter.
But yeah,
experience.
I feel like Florence could have been in the conversation too. But yeah, so as a game, it stands alone. So I think that's fair. How about this? Everyone agree that it stands one spot ahead of God of War?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
Okay. I think I think we have a list, guys. I think we have a list. Should we change any of these positions? Think about it. Deepen your spirit. Is this something? Is this something that Jesus would love?
I kind of feel after I don't know. I feel like Captain Spirit and God of War should both be a little bit higher. I mean, just
above what in particular?
Okay, above Donut County in particular. Just, I mean, granted I haven't played Donut County and I have played Captain Spirit and God of War, but I mean,
So what do you
know? Be above where? Based on the conversation, do you think it should go above where the water tastes like wine? I'm just asking for reach.
I mean,
I would be okay with Captain Spirit going above that, but not God of War.
Yeah, I'd be fine with that.
So Captain Spirit above where water tastes like wine?
Sure.
Okay, cool. Yeah, we all get a little bit more lax about where things go on the list when you get past 11:30. Cool. So I'm just going to read through the list one more time, and then we'll discuss one last time if anything needs to change. Ready? 1. Wandersong. 2. Celeste. 3. Spider-Man. 4. My Child Lebensborn. 5. Return of the Oberdin. 6. Speed Dating for Ghosts. 7. The Awesome Adventures of Captain Spirit. 8. Where the Water Tastes Like Wine. 9. Donut County. And 10. God of War. These are the games that Jesus loved the most of 2018. These are the Jesus Goaties.
Definitively.
Should their numbers change anywhere?
I really think like Spider-Man should be above Celeste, just because of what I said earlier, that Celeste is looking more at reconciliation with the self, and Spider-Man is looking at others, looking at people besides yourself.
Yeah, mentoring others, getting over yourself for the benefit of those around you.
But I think Celeste, that's still really important, what Celeste has to say. I think it's especially important for a lot of people that are struggling with anxiety and depression. Like,
I agree.
Like Drew, like Celeste sounds like level design. It's just structured around that entire theme. I think that's amazing.
Yeah, it's really well done in that regard.
I feel like Wandersong and Spider-Man are like really close in essence, so I really like Celeste to like pin like in between them both.
Yeah. And here's my this is stupid, but I'm gonna say it anyway. We got this book in the mail from like a church in our area. Like little words of wisdom, like truisms or whatever.
Yeah.
I don't know how they want me to send it to everybody, but I read this quote in it today, and I won't forget it. It said, "Show mercy to everyone but yourself." Such an awful thing.
It's horrible.
Wow.
Yeah, that's pretty bad.
I think it's trying to say like be hard on like be hard on yourself, don't be hard on other people. But I think that's not true.
What came to your door, Puritans?
Do they have big hats?
No. It was like a megachurch thing.
Okay. I understand.
It's like, I think it's just quotes from some guy's sermons, you know what I mean? Like, and they just put it in a book, and they're like, hey, we hope this will encourage people. So I'm trying to be too hard on them, but I just think that there is that sort of view among a lot of Christians today, and it's that
don't
like self-care is almost,
the absence of self-care.
Yeah, self-care is almost sinful.
Yeah,
and I think
I can see that.
I think Jesus loves us so much that he wants us to learn to love ourselves responsibly and to care for ourselves responsibly.
Yeah. I mean, it's not love others more than yourself. It's love others as yourself.
And I think so, like, all I'd say, fair argument maybe, but I do think Christians need that message, and Jesus would, in our day and age, they're telling people they can't, it's not okay to like take care of yourself. We could
end up having a bit of a tie here. But I'm going to side with Madeline in saying that Spider-Man should be higher than Celeste. Drew and Joey are saying that Celeste should stay in second. So that leaves...
All right, guys. Cast your votes.
And Jonathan. What do you think, Steph? Steph, should Spider-Man be higher or lower than Celeste? And Jonathan, you come up with the same answer in your mind while Steph is thinking about it. Ready?
For me,
do you have it?
So I'm going to say... I understand the arguments on both sides. I'm still stuck on Spider-Man not being an original story. So as of right now, I am okay with keeping them how they are.
And Jonathan, how about you?
I mean,
if you want to go the other way, you're allowed to.
I mean,
follow your heart, Jonathan.
Let the Holy
No
Spirit
pressure if you want that job.
Wait, what job?
Oh.
What money? This is not profit.
It's what Jesus would do.
Yeah, what would Jesus?
I mean,
like
I could really go either way with this, but I don't know.
Your opinion is more important to me than that it decides the vote. So I just want to hear what you think.
Okay, well, what I'm thinking now is that Spider-Man in general is a lot more accessible to people because Celeste platforming is brutal, which I mean which strengthens the theme and drives the point home too. And I know there are like settings and stuff for Celeste to make it easier. So
yeah.
That's where my thinking is right now. That's where I'm thinking,
Let me save you the struggle.
You would want Spider-Man to be above Celeste.
So
I guess that's kind of where I'm leaning.
Let me.
All right, so
What are you gonna say, Steph?
I was going to
Go ahead,
say
Steph.
I'm going to save you the struggle. I mean, my hang up on the story isn't really detrimental to if this is a Jesus game of the year. Going by the themes of the game, I would be okay with it being above Celeste.
That's the deciding vote.
So sad.
Sweet.
All
All right.
my soul's
So we have.
It's like pulling.
mildly wounded.
I also think that it's wild that we have a AAA game, a system exclusive game on this high on our list. That's so mainstream. I have Spider-Man in number 2, but so this is our list right now, and I wanna just bring up the others just real quick, just one last time, and then we're done. Right now it's Wandersong, Spider-Man, Celeste, Lebensborn, Oberdin, Speed Dating, Captain Spirit, Where the Water Tastes, Donut County, and God of War. Should any of those be higher or lower? Jonathan. I know we just made you
Wow.
rack your soul.
Fallout 76, number 1. No, me personally, I would kind of want God of War a little bit higher, but that's just my personal taste. I think Jesus would find this list acceptable.
Oh.
That's
That's the word from the prophet.
yeah.
Final thoughts from Jonathan.
Awesome. Joey, how about you? Would you change the placement on any of these?
I would substitute Donut County for A Way Out.
Thank you.
I'm sorry, Drew.
I'll see myself out.
Gotta play Judas here. Someone's gotta play Judas here.
I'm gonna hold my ground on it. So you just decide if you want to stay up for another 20 minutes. I know it's getting late there in North Carolina, so
Yeah, it's 12 o'clock.
Oh man.
I really think it's a really joyful, easy game to pick up, and it does have a great for those who are willing to see it.
It is
That's
much
really
easier
willing,
to play
but-
than A Way Out because I've been wanting to play A Way Out with Stephen Miller or my friend or a lot of people, and it takes a lot of effort to get a person to schedule out time with you and not be dealing with babies.
But is this
Even-
about accessibility, or is this about Jesus?
Yeah, I know. It's like, I don't know if accessibility factors into that. Like,
Jesus was all about accessibility. That's why he was in places that you didn't have to pay to get into. That's why he
I'll go pour
sat
the
in a
pot.
public place and talked to
I'll go
people
pour
where
the
they
pot.
were.
Coffee.
reflect
We're
his
gonna be here a
game
while.
choices.
Just for the record, we just hit 3 hours.
We are dedicated, guys. We are dedicated.
Yeah, it'd be a really
No matter what, we have a really great list, and I'm fine with kvetching and sorting out spots 9 and 10.
My only request is like to switch out Donut County, or even God of War for A Way Out, because I think like God of War is similar to Captain Spirit in themes of
what it deals with.
what it deals with. So I think like no.
Well, and Captain Spirit lent itself better to that mechanically than
Yes.
God of
So
War
what I'm
did.
saying is, like, for the sake of diversity, it might be better to have A Way Out on the list, not because like A Way Out's a better game than God of War,
So-
in my opinion. But like,
Can I make a suggestion just to get us all to bed? So we keep Donut County at 9.
Yes.
I feel a little selfish. And A Way Out and God of War are tied at 10. We have a tie.
I'd be okay with that because didn't we have?
I'm fine with that.
Didn't we have like a number 11 last when we were doing something else?
Yeah. Or if y'all even, I mean, the only one really advocating hard for Donut County, so I'd be fine. County and A Way Out tied, or whatever you want to tie. Or we just do it. It's done.
I'm fine with God of War and A Way Out time.
But that's 11.
yeah,
Each of us only has to write about one, so as long as nobody's writing about 2 for the write-up, that's the important part.
It's the Jesus Goaties and not Jesus top 10 games.
I think
of the year.
Jesus
would Jesus not go after the one and leave the rest?
Wow.
Well, I mean,
Damn.
there was 12 disciples.
Jesus would say the truth.
God, Jonathan.
Tie.
All right, you know what I'm going to do? Just because it's late and we can do whatever the heck we want. Here it is. Watch this. See this? Check that out.
Fine.
No!
For those
The
of
top
you,
12
Yeah.
because it's the 12 tribes of Israel, not because there's 12 disciples. Oh, wait, it's both. How about we have Jesus' 12 favorites of 2018? It's Wander Song, Spider-Man, Celeste, My Child Lebensborn, Oberdin, Speed Dating for Ghosts, The Awesome Adventures of Captain Spirit, Where the Water Tastes Like Wine, Donut County, A Way Out at number 10, and then at number 11, God of War, and number 12, Red Dead 2.
Should Red
I
Dead
actually
2 be number 12?
I love the numbering. 12 is perfect.
Yeah. Okay.
You see
Yeah, we
what
can
happened there,
connect.
Drew?
At this point, I'm willing to accept anything.
A game for each disciple. It'll be like a game in itself.
the spirit is willing,
love it.
but
Jonathan,
the body
this
is
was the
weak.
best idea you've ever
Wander
had.
song
I don't
for
know if
you.
you've ever had any other ideas, but this one was the best.
Wander Songs Peter.
You could put Fallout.
Oh.
Spider-Man's John.
You could
Wait.
throw Fallout 76 in there if it would get me to
Wait,
bed.
that
I'd
means
go for
Celeste
it.
is James and going to get sorted to death. That's not
No.
Which one's Judas?
good. All right, good.
That's
Oh, man.
Oh, that's a good
Oh,
question.
man.
Is it? Oh, obviously it's Red Dead
I was
Redemption.
going to say it.
yeah.
Oh, I know which one it is, but I ain't saying it.
Yeah.
Thank you, Jesus.
I mean, there's even a point in Red Dead 2 where Dutch shows up and says, "Well, here's Judas."
There's
Oh,
something
man.
that happens in A Way Out that could make that be Judas.
Oh, yes.
Yes,
Oh, yes.
yes,
I
that's
did
what I was
believe
saying.
that.
Yeah.
Which is why, I was gonna say that, like, Jesus would say, "You will feel what I felt."
Ooh. Yeah.
Depending on your character choice.
Depending
Yes.
on your character choice, yeah.
Yes, and that was like a major point for me. Sympathy, empathy with me.
Yep.
But I'm good with this. This is good.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm really happy with how this
Okay.
turned out. I did not expect to go with 12, but I think it's hilarious. All right, awesome. Thank you guys for listening. If you've tolerated the entire 3-hour podcast,
We love
I
you.
am
They're
blessed
amazing.
by your listenership. We are done. Do you have anything else you have to say to close us out?
No, just go to lovethainer.com, check out our great articles. Go check out our podcast network. We have 3 great podcasts. Just search for Love Thy Nerd in iTunes or wherever you do podcasts.